This is Movies, a podcast about the act of cinema. And with me today is Hans, who's also wearing a beanie. He's been wearing a lot of beanies on these shows lately. He's trying to be like the cool hip
I'm very
guy.
shiny. I'm very shiny now, and I haven't shaved again, so it's just starting to come. It's starting. The worst part about balding and shaving your head is that if you don't keep up with it and shave it regularly, you can really see the hurt. Like you can see the spots where hair is just not growing anymore, and it's just like I have to shave. So for now, I won't be showing my shiny head yet until I shave it up.
Well, I have no excuse. I have a full head of hair, excuse
Yeah,
me. But you two fellas, however, have something in common with one
yeah.
another for the time being, anyway. Anyway, we have back on
Alo-
the show. We have back.
alopecia, yeah.
Yeah. Tonight we have back on Nick Joroff, Wizard of Cause on YouTube.
Gorov.
Goroff, excuse me.
Sorry.
Uh, and how are you doing tonight? I know we've just been chatting. I already asked you that only 5 minutes ago, but let's just play along with this.
Well, I had to revisit what what we're going to be talking about tonight, so that kind of brought my day down a little bit. To give sort of a, well, I guess to sort of give a little spoiler alert about my opinion there. Otherwise, all right, not bad.
Yeah, we've been talking about a lot of TV shows on movies lately. We were talking about Dexter. What was the first? True Detective. We did True Detective with Jake Hanrahan over a year ago. That's about
Which
100
one?
episodes. We did the first two seasons. I think the third
Okay.
one had just finished airing at the time. And I had revisited both. And obviously, I think that first True Detective season is terrific. I was not very generous to True Detective season 2 when it first aired, and I was not into it at all. But having gone back to it, I think with a reset perspective and knowing what to anticipate, I found it much more enjoyable the second time around. Although it's completely carried on the shoulders of Vince Vaughn and Colin Farrell. But today, we're going to be talking about a Netflix property. We did talk about Squid Game earlier this year. That's a Korean television series. And like Squid Game, this series is bolstered by a Korean lead actor, John Cho. When I think of Spike Spiegel, that's just what comes to mind is Harold
Fif-
from Harold and
Yeah,
Kumar.
50-year-old Korean man is exactly what I see when I think like, what would Spike look like in real life? Oh, and
A big old moon faced Korean. That's right.
middle-aged Korean man sounds, yeah, about right on that one.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's not really who I would cast for Korean Ash Williams, which is pretty much what this character is. He's very groovy. I made the mistake. I thought it was going to be helpful. I made the mistake of watching the anime. Like I watched the first episode. You asked me to watch the first two and the last one because I didn't really want to see through the whole thing. I watched the first episode of the live action and then I watched the anime just to compare both of them because I haven't seen either of them. And the difference between the anime character was very slick, very cool, very groovy, I guess you can call it. And then this old guy who is trying to play that role, but it's just that's just not who the guy is. So even though he's an actor, he should be able to pull it off. I don't know if it's that I just already have a bias against him because of the Harold thing. Like I can't separate him from that, which I guess makes me kind of racist. But also, something that they didn't keep in mind when they were casting this is that now with HD cameras and close-ups, you can really tell that someone's not 27 years old. He's supposed to be 27. Also, the bad guy, Vicious or whatever his name is, he's also supposed to be 27. And then you get those close-ups with crow's feet and just like old skin, and you're just kind of like it makes the goofiness of like their hair and like their outfits and all that kind of embarrassing because they're just 50-year-old men, dressed up like that.
yeah. I mean, to me, honestly, to me, Cowboy Bebop, the anime for a long time is like I'm a super fan in that sense. Like to me, that's one of my favorite works of fiction. Period. And the sad thing I noticed watching it though, it's like, yeah, John Cho for one thing is too old. Clearly too old to be playing this character. Is supposed to be in their 20s. And like the casting decisions outside of like Cho and Vicious are probably the two worst casting decisions, I'd say. The guy who played Jet, I thought pretty much nailed the character, had the voice, the tone. The only thing that fucked that up was they introduced this like element where he's got a daughter when he didn't have one in the original show.
Mm.
Right.
and that kind of takes away from the character too, because he's supposed to look kind of like Evans. He's supposed, like, you know, my character Evans in Mass State Lottery. He's like, you know, he's a jaded ex-cop with like nothing in the world for him. Like what he has is all he's got. And then they introduced, but I thought that actor, and I thought honestly too, the actress who played Faye did serviceable work with what she was given. Because this,
Really, I completely disagree. I thought she was the worst part of the entire series.
I think
wish
her
I wish it
character.
didn't. No, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I was gonna say. I mean, this isn't like praise of the character. This is actually more like I'm looking at this. I'm like looking at the material, like I'm hearing the lines and I'm watching the sequences and like, you know, just kind of envisioning like being given a script with like, this is what's happening today. And that's where I think most of the like that and like the what is the whole composition really.
Mm-hmm.
I think the actress does a serviceable job with what she's given, which I don't think was good.
I don't think they should have had her curse so much, because every time she cursed felt so awkward.
They made Faye Amy Schumer, basically. That's every line of dialogue out of her mouth is either perverted or fuck or something along those lines. It felt very not Faye.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Just in terms of performance, though, like I think the Faye character in this live action is pretty shit. I think, though, I'll say like it's the kind of thing. So like whenever a scene transitions and we're visiting Vicious and Julia, which like narratively that's a clusterfuck on its own, but when those characters come on screen, I'm actively like, oh fuck, really? Okay, I don't want to see these characters. I'm not enjoying this sequence. When Faye's on, it's like, okay, like I'm enjoying the performance you're putting out. You know, you're doing your best with what you're given. It's serviceable. And then you come back to John Cho, who's so obviously trying to be as cool as Spike is, and he's just not.
Faye felt like Hit Girl for me from
that's a pretty good
Kick-Ass?
one-to-one. Yeah.
Yeah, where it's just a little girl that curses, so it's like, oh cool, it's a little girl that curses, but this character is not a little girl, so it's just like, oh cool, the girl said fuck again. That's
she made a tiny reference. Oh, tiny penis reference. That's comedy.
What's the line in the last episode? Welcome to the ouch, motherfuckers.
You know what this series reminded me of tonally and just like spiritually? It felt very Joel Schumacher's Batman. Batman Forever and Batman Robin.
You got it too?
Yeah.
I had that same that was my exact fucking that was an exact feeling when I first started watching it. It's almost like I pictured this studio meeting where somebody comes in really earnestly with a pitch they're really interested in like really seeing produced. And like, I want to make this thing called Cowboy Bebop. It's based on an existing IP that people love. And all of a sudden the studio ears go like, money what? Huh? And then like, yeah, well, what is it? It's an anime. What's an anime? It's a cartoon. I love it. We'll make a live action cartoon. Like, if you watch Cowboy Bebop, the original anime, it is actually grittier and more grounded in terms of its violence, in terms of any kind of subversive or like, like I'm not even gonna go with cursing, but kind of like any like tonality wise, all of it, it's like it's more grounded and gritty and real than it is cartoonish and goofy. And then it's like Netflix is like, okay, let's do cartoonish and goofy. This will be fun. Everyone who's not the main cast, overact your fucking hearts out. Come on, really go for it. Chew on the scenery, literally, you dog.
I was really struggling in between, is this person overacting or underacting? Because I feel that at times they were doing that, and then at other times it felt like they just didn't want to be there at all. Like the performance was just like, all right, let's get this done. But yeah, the tone, again, because I think I've only maybe seen one episode of the anime. The way that the story's told, even though I only saw 2 episodes, it's a more, and it's weird to say about it, but it's a more mature way of storytelling, because they're not feeding you everything as like a little step by step of this person knows this person this way, so they
Step
have
by
this
step. Now
relationship
that was a
because of it.
great show, wasn't that good? Cody, what was his name?
In
Patrick
the
Duffy from Dallas. He
That's
was
a
the
show.
dad.
None of those stars have been arrested for child endangerment. I'm guessing, isn't that right? Drake and Josh. Fuck you.
wasn't Cody. I think
No,
Cody
no, not for
was.
child
Cody was a
endangerment.
naughty
He
boy.
beat up his mom or something. Cody
Oh,
got
right.
who gives a shit
he
about
he
it?
he pushed some woman over or something. Got kicked off
Yeah,
the show
'cause he
because
just
of
went on a spree assaulting Asian people in Manhattan.
it. Yeah. Well, the anime is more of a procedural, and it's definitely generally darker and more adult in tone, especially if you watch the subtitled version over the dub version. But yeah, there's not. I mean, obviously it's the script. The script is a big problem, but I would also fault that it's probably more difficult for the actors to get into their characters. First of all, when they bought all the wardrobe from Party City, when everything is just Halloween costumes that you can get from Wish.com. Literally, the suits look polyester. It's horrible. And clearly, I would say 75% of the backdrops are just pure green screen. Now, granted, it's a space show or whatever, but you can very easily build, especially on a Netflix budget for this, for one of the most coveted properties, something that's been, talked about for at least 15 years now. I know they're talking about maybe doing a Cowboy Bebop adaptation as early as 2004,
Well,
2005.
Well, I think it might have even gone. Yeah, it was about then, maybe a little earlier. The original plan was Keanu Reeves. That was originally his, like, that was his like big goal because he's a massive Bebop fan himself, and he actually had a script and had all the production plan. And you can find interviews on YouTube where he's like talking about it, and he went to the studios and they're like, we love this script, we love the story, we love the IP, we love everything about it. It's only one problem: it's going to cost $3 billion to make. And yeah, and I mean, and it's funny because I remember back, like 15 years ago, when that sort of rumor was getting milled around, and there was like those fan casting art pieces, where people Photoshop. They're like, "Oh, this is who I dream of playing fucking Wolverine next."
Hans, can you pull up a good Cowboy Bebop adaptation fan manipulation poster, preferably from like 2005? Continue, Nick. Sorry.
Well, yeah, no, it's funny because I remember like the dream casting, and it was pretty well photoshopped, but the dream cast at that time was Keanu Reeves as Spike, which could kind of work better. It probably, even with his like 55-year-old ass, would probably work better than John Cho, I'd say.
Oh, absolutely. I think visually speaking, anyway, he's probably. I mean, even still, yeah, he's probably the.
Yeah, well, I mean,
choice.
he's kind of a blank slate, but then again, Spike's kind of a blank slate as a character. Like, he's this noir, tough guy detective character, But yeah, they had Christina Ricci as Faye. She's certainly got the endowment for such a character. Also, I mean, like, she's got that, dark hair, dark eyes, intensity that would have worked. Bruce Willis for Jet.
Oh, speak of the
And-
devil. There you go.
There it is.
All
Yep,
three of
that's the
them.
one. Yep. And then there was one last one I saw. Somebody was saying Ella Fanning should have played Radical Edward, which I kind of thought was pretty on the nose.
What do they got there? Matrix 1999, Keanu Reeves with Spike's hair.
with weird
Yeah,
hair.
together.
Yeah.
That looks
Yeah,
natural.
it's pretty good.
This is just what people would do back in 2004. They would go on message boards and create these little mock-ups and
You say
try and-
back in 2004, they're still doing it, man. I mean, I can't tell you the number of times, like, so this phone has passed through like another set of hands, so the news feed is on her old feed. So, but I get some weird shit like this fan mock-up of fucking Tobey Maguire playing Wolverine is amazing. It will blow your
Yeah.
mind. Like,
Hold on, that actually became like its own form of news now. Is somebody makes a Photoshop poster and then you'll see like WeGotItCovered.com says Willem Dafoe is the new Joker, and then you'll be like, what? And then you'll click it and it's like in this fan poster that brings his character to. Oh, you fucking
not
liars.
just that. Oh, dude, I've seen on YouTube they've got a trend I noticed that's people are like will edit their own trailers to movies that haven't come out or that are coming out or rumored to come out, but there's no media out on it yet. So they'll just cut different sequences from other movies that the actors have been in.
Do you know how many
Or like-
times I've fallen for Miami Vice 2021 reboot, and it's like an old picture of Don Johnson? I was like, hold on, what? And I click it, and it's just a bunch of clips from movies mixed in with like Burn Notice backdrops and whatever USA program suits. You know, they'll throw that in there. It's just like,
So was this before they decided that Jet is like the darkest African ever? Because Bruce Willis is not a black man at all. So that
Well,
casting there.
Jet's always been kind of gray colored. You could interpret that
Yeah.
however you will.
Yeah, and the dubbed version of the anime itself, like, because every one of those every one of the voices in that show, to fans of it, are kind of iconic. And like it was, it's a black actor who played Jet, and it's funny because the actor who plays him, this is where I like really give credit, is the actor who plays Jet in this live adaptation. He sounds just like him. And honestly, this is like, and I've seen some people, your nerd-rotic types as it was, who are just like, I guess that they've race swapped it. And it's like, I don't give a fuck. This guy's got the best performance in the show. In fact, most of the scenes he's in, he carries. And but it's, yeah, I mean, like, but yeah, Jet in the show, like, he was kind of like, most animes make all of their characters as sort of racially ambiguous as they can. Right. Which is also the
Except
classic.
Dragon Ball. If you ever saw Mr. Popo, they like to go very on the nose. Very classic 1940s interpretation of race. But continue, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's weird because, like, like one of the things that I think they fucked up, and with this entire series, I think it's just fair to say, the live adaptation here, is it's a mess in that, like, they had the source material, and they did try to stick to some of it, but not enough. And it was one of these kind of things, like, either like take the source material and remake it, beat for beat as best as you can, or do something completely different. Because I mean, even the anime movie they came out with for Bebop, which came out after the series concluded, and spoiler alert, did anyone give a fuck about spoilers on the show?
Nah, we're talking about it all. Go right ahead.
All right. Well, yeah, well, so I mean, at the end of the Bebop series, and it's a limited series, at the end of it, like, there's this really poetic death. Our main character, Spike, dies, and it's poetic. Then after that, they came out with this anime movie, which they outright said, they're like, don't try and figure out where this fits in continuity. It's part of the story now, but don't try and figure it out. It happened at some point, and that was because, like, they could just come up with these things and say, oh yeah, this is a story that this crew and this cast of characters went through at some point between the beginning when we met them and the end when your main character died. Instead, they tried and failed to adapt so many elements from the show, from the original one, as almost, it was, and it's weird because it's not quite fan service. It's close but not on the mark kind of shit. And it's that I think just structurally, as the show itself goes, is like, that's one of its biggest problems, is it can't figure out, is it trying to retell the story of Bebop? Is it trying to tell new Bebop stories? And where do we go from here? And they fucked this up. I mean, like, and then you get your diversity check boxes too, like the character of Gren. Like, in the series, Gren had a real fucking, like, crazy, I think really interesting role. Like, he was this soldier who was experimented on and had, like, drugs and shit given to him that caused him, like, basically grow tits and become bigender or whatever they call. And in this one, and he had a two show run. It was like a 2-parter, and his character meant something. Now it's like, oh, he's kind of a crime lord and he's non-binary. Like, who gives a fuck? Like, this wasn't that big a character, and now you're minimizing the impact that the original character had and the original story was, by mixing it up with all your other garbage. Vicious, another example. This guy's like, he's I'm half expecting him to just bust out a fucking Zune and start blasting some Cut Myself emo music, when in the original show, what made him a compelling and terrifying villain was, like, zero emotion. Like, he took slight pleasure in killing. That's all the emotion you got out of him. And you know, you could
And
have him like you could have him dead to rights, chained to a wall with a gun to his head, and he'd still just be like, "I'm going to kill all of you." And this guy's like, "Oh my god, oh, this is
yeah,
what
you
they tried
ruined.
to make me do."
Well, you ruined that on what? Is that episode 1 or 2? I don't remember, when he's asked to kill his wife, and he's like, I can't, I can't do it. And it's like, all right, who's this guy then? Is this a vicious villain, or is this someone that loves his wife? Very nice husband.
It kind of it takes away from the whole like heartless, ruthless crime lord thing, doesn't it? It's
Yeah.
like, oh, but he also loves dogs. What the fuck?
Yeah, I also realized that the Cowboy Bebop episodes are what, like 25 minutes, the anime. This goes
Up to 50.
Is it the anime?
No, 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 no,
Because
no. The live
I think
action.
the first. No, yeah, but what I mean is that it feels like they tried to maybe cram 2 episodes of the anime into 1 episode of the live action, but the way that they tell the story doesn't really work as well because of the episodic thing. Now, I haven't seen the whole run of the anime, but I'm assuming that even though it's episodic, like a CSI series, there's still things that are dragged from episode to episode so that the ending means something.
I like
right?
that your go-to comparison for Cowboy Bebop is CSI.
Yeah,
That,
right.
that sounds about right.
You'd have been better. Yeah, I mean, it'd been better off actually. I think a better comparison would probably be like Firefly.
Okay.
In that, well, and also tonally too, in the way the characters are handled. Like part of what made Firefly great is, you know, all of those characters are like flawed and
Mhm.
kind of broken in their own ways, and that gives life to their characters. And the weird thing is, like, you had that in the anime, and then in this, it's almost like it's almost like they've just completely didn't show what all that is. I mean, the first episode you get what, like 5 or 6 of the church scene flashbacks, which is this big iconic sequence in the original show.
Mm.
But what, like it just became fucking jarring. Like, okay, every 5 minutes we're gonna show that supposedly aloof John Cho. Oh, he's constantly haunted by this thing. Hey, did you notice he's haunted? He's a haunted man. This is a man with a past, everyone, and he's haunted. Oh, you might have forgotten. I'm gonna show you this again now. Okay, cool. And it's yeah, I mean, it's kind of just comes down to be like a parody. In the episodic nature of the anime, that worked because also, I might have the timing wrong, but if I'm not wrong, I think Cowboy Bebop actually really came out before TV shows in general thought they needed to be the MCU, where every episode, where you needed these running strands, season-long arcs for everything. They had them, but it was more rooted in developing and building the characters. So like the conflict between Spike and Vicious as the fundamental conflict in the story itself, it came up when it needed to, and it came up when it worked. But it wasn't like every single episode, like, hey guys, we finally caught, like, the Carrot Top bandit, yay. Oh, by the way, foreshadowing, my enemy's coming. No, it's none of that bullshit.
Well, I also realized that they and I couldn't think of a better way to put it. They Michael Scott the characters. So on the original run of the first 6 episodes of the American Office, Michael Scott is mean. He's the neck of his shirt is like a little bit tighter, so his head looks more bloated, and his hair,
he put on weight. He was trying to do
back.
Gervais verbatim, essentially. So he put on like at least 20 pounds, I think. He greased his hair back. He was trying to do the David Brent character.
But the problem there was that he was just kind of an asshole, but not funny. So you would tune in to do what David Brent to watch him do what David Brent did, which is just look at this shithead making an ass of himself, right? What is the next shithead thing he's going to do? In America, after the first season, they softened him up a lot so that people would like him, and he became more of like kind of a fool, kind of a goofy. Oops, I don't know what I'm doing because I'm kind of stupid, instead of the mean guy of the first 6 episodes have. And I guess that's why he became such a huge success, because he was more palatable, I guess, to middle America or like regular people.
Well, that
would be.
I
Oh,
remember
God.
watching. I remember watching The Office. Like my girlfriend got me into it back in the day. It was one of those shows. Like everyone's like, "Oh my god, I love it so much," and I was like, "I
Yeah.
don't want to watch it because of that." And
Yeah.
but no, I remember watching it and like it was kind of interesting because yeah, like what's his fucking name? The actor. I'm like
Steve Carell.
spacing. Huh?
Steve Carell.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, it's one of those like it's like everyone should know that name except all I'm hearing is like Seth Rogen. What?
Right.
Um, but no, I mean that was actually a really interesting arc there, though. Just in terms of like that first season,
Mhm.
like no one was really sure what they were doing,
Yeah.
and then they fell into their roles. This one, when you say they kind of Michael Scotted, what we can say like with Spike.
Yeah, well, because on the first episode of the anime, Spike uh, tries to. Well, I guess he doesn't, but he steals food from a woman that he bumps into. Then you have the Jed character that threatens someone with a broken bottle while holding their head for
Mm-hmm.
information or something. So they're flawed. Like right from the beginning, you can tell that, well, these guys might not be the nice heroes that most shows will present to you, which is what they do in the live action, where they're just like, these guys are cool and look, they're solving a thing. And I don't know if it's that's because of for American audiences, it might be a little bit easier to take, but I liked it a lot more, or I like it a lot more when you show me a character that's, flawed, so that it's more interesting instead of just, trying to be cool, I guess, which is what
Well,
these characters feel like they're doing. Yeah.
it kind of calls back to something I think you said earlier, which is like you said you felt like they had tried to maybe cram like a couple episodes together. That first episode, strangely enough, actually combines elements of two episodes and the movie. And so the first episode, which for a long time I guess was actually like they wouldn't air it in the US because there's a whole scene of what looks like a pregnant woman getting shot through the gut and having like red shit float out of her into space as she dies. Yeah, it was a pretty brutal sequence. And for a while, I guess they wouldn't show that in the US, but there's that element, like because the original you saw the first episode of the anime, so you know how that went down, and you saw the beats that they took from that. What they also took was so the whole casino sequence where like Spike walks in with his headphones all nonchalant, just kicks the shit out of everyone with guns, no problem. That's actually that they drew that from the movie because the opening scene to that is he and Jet actually breaking up and arresting this crazy dude. He's just robbing a convenience store. And then he goes on this whole diatribe about how he used to be this guy and the system's unfair and shit. And then Jet and Spike show up and don't give a shit and kick shit out of him. And then the third thing they mixed that with, though, because that casino sequence, it was hearkening to actually the first episode where you actually meet Faye, where you find her at working as a card shark dealer at a casino. And so they took all three of these elements and they're like, hey guys, do you remember Cowboy Bebop? Well, we do. We sure do too. Look at all this we got for you. It's going to be great. And then there's an old guy who's going to fight some people and they're all going to be overacting and he's going to look like he wants to go home.
Yeah.
Here's a
was-
question that I have real quick. Because Nick, you seem to be the foremost expert on Cowboy
Dude,
Bebop.
the first pistol I ever bought, I shamelessly bought because I'm like, holy shit, that's Spike's gun. And it just so happens it's an awesome gun.
That's very like 15-year-old me wanting to buy a samurai sword from the Asian grocery store because I think it's going to be cool.
I watched Skylander. I remember that feeling.
Oh, of course. All right. So they said before this came out, actually, we're going to build upon the lore and it's going to tie into the series. Did they do that at all? Because here's the thing. I've seen Cowboy Bebop, I think, to completion, but I haven't in a long time, and I revisit episodes sporadically. Like I watched a bunch of the anime episodes not long after finishing this series about a week ago, the Netflix series. And I've seen the movie a couple of times, but I don't have like the timeline.
There's no way.
No,
There's no way. There's no way. That was actually something I was referencing earlier. Is like when they made the movie, they explicitly said when it was released after the series had concluded, yes, this takes place during their time together. don't try and figure out when, because we don't have an answer. There's nothing like that here. Like I was just telling Hans, like that first episode crammed together, which is weird too, because you don't meet Faye until later. But like the only casino scenes in the series, the ones when you meet Faye, the them walking in to break up a robbery. That's the first scene of the movie, which took place in a convenience store. There's like when they say they were building on the lore, it really feels more like they got the property, yeah, and then they just got a whole mess of writers, cheap writers, clearly, and just said, okay, here's what you've got to work with. Have at it. Do we remake this, or are we building on it? Yes, and it's like the show can't make its mind up whether or not it's trying to like tell new stories that happen in the continuity of this, or if it's trying to retell the stories, because it does a shit ton of that. I mean, like some of the stories they do. There's the one with what is his name? Hakeem, which is actually, and I gotta say too, that casting in terms of like at least looking like the anime. There's this bounty they're going after. He's this tall black dude who's a kung fu master. And for some reason, he's got this like shimmer on that causes him to look like this long-haired white ginger guy. And okay, so that kind of harkens back to some beats in the series. There's an episode where they're hunting this tall black dude who's actually had plastic surgery to make him look like that, because he previously looked like a scrawny white guy. And he stole a dog who was supposed to be like, genetically modified and all this. And this one, they just make it, he's just stealing dogs from rich people. And he was going to kill them, but he can't because dogs are cute. Like, what the fuck?
It's
like
a very Dennis the Menace kind of storyline they implemented.
Like Michael Vick.
It's
Yeah.
it's so dumb. I watched like actually before, because I had to catch up. Here's how like, and this is as a fan, as I said so much, like I've got Spike's gun. I even actually found a matted frame, and I was bored one day, so I cut the and it's cool art, like on the DVD cover. Like I cut the DVD cover off because DVD was garbage and done anyway. So I just put that in a frame. I'm like, art. So I'm a big fan, right? I fell asleep the first time I was watching the series. And then when I was catching up and trying to catch up on what I missed for this conversation, I fell asleep again. It's, even though it's exciting, even though there's jumpy, flippy action from time to time, even like the fight sequences, they feel so, it's like, it's beat for beat with that. It's like, it looks like
slow.
a dance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're not fighting, they're dancing. It's like, wha, oh, he, ha, he, ha, hoo, ha. Like, no. Even the anime had the decency to show this guy kicking people in the fucking teeth. You know? Give me that. Don't give me
blood too.
Yeah,
there's a lot of violence on the live action one, but there's no blood at all. So people get shot and you don't see, and they just.
Well, that's not true. Here's
guess.
what I noticed. There was some blood that was on a card table that looked like it was just freshly rendered out with like Nintendo 64 graphics. It was literally just
Nice.
resting on the carpet of the table. And I was like, there's literally no need for that. They could have just sprinkled a little bit of fake blood. There you go.
No, there's blood. I can give you a better example of blood in the live action. Faye gets shot in the shoulder with a large caliber revolver. It gives her this tiny little speck here. You don't see an exit wound. She's bleeding out, but she can fucking wield the fucking right arm like nothing happened. Because, bullets, they are. So it turns out shoulder bones are bullet resistant in this universe, because you can get shot right in the shoulder and your arm works fine, so you can run into a bar.
See, I thought it blew her tits off, and that's why she was so flat chested compared to the very busty cartoon.
See, this is one of the things I hate about media and culture criticism in general, though, because like I honestly sat down wanting to like this. And there were some things I found that I did like, I'd watch like a sequence or two and I'd be like, all right, I like that. Or like a moment of someone's performance. Like I said, I think the actress who plays Faye wasn't given a lot to work with, but what she was given, she did as good a job as anyone could fucking do with it. I mean, I enjoyed seeing her on screen. I'd be like, all right, except and then they drag this random, like, here's her fake mother. It's like, that didn't happen in the show. Who thought that was a good idea? Why did you incorporate this? There were far more interesting storylines you could have failed to copy correctly in the original canon. Your writers could have even been even lazier than they were. Was that like the days when like the management showed up and like, you guys working hard? Like, yeah, boss. What are you up to? Oh, we retconned a bunch of shit. We know you love that, don't you? Yeah.
Well, they have eight. I just looked it up. They had 8 different writers for the whole series. The thing that I don't understand about that is that, okay, so you want to have a big cast of writers that you hired for this show for whatever reason. Then the whole anthology part or the episodic part, I think would work better that way if they want to have like their own little story. But if you're trying to tell a story that's continuous, that's supposed to, every episode's supposed to lead to the other one, having 8 different heads writing all of those things, and maybe that's why it feels so disjointed.
That's a great point actually, because like thinking back just on the shit I had to watch again today, it really does feel like it was written by committee. There's like
Right.
there's no sense of genuine, like, and it's weird because like there is like this underlying sense that like the people working on it, like I'm gonna say even probably John Cho, most of the cast, right, genuinely love the fact that they got to be a part of Cowboy Bebop. And because when you're shooting something, you've got no idea how it's gonna look in the end.
Right.
But then there's this like disjointed, like, yeah, by committee feel. It feels like, okay, so this scene was clearly written by like 9 people around a conference room table while Imagine Dragons played in the background or some shit.
I think it's because there was so much pressure to get this right that they thought, all right, well, we'll throw in a bunch of people to kind of filter to make sure everything's good, and then it just wound up getting fucked up. I think if you would just if you would let one person handle the script and direction, and yeah, they're going to mutilate it a little bit, they're going to do their own thing with it, it would have been in a much better. It would have just wound up much better than what we wound up getting, which felt like a mid-2000s like cable procedural disguised as a Netflix show and Cowboy Bebop.
Anytime, yeah, like the most common thing I've heard said about it is it looks like a YouTube fan film.
Mhm.
Absolutely
and it fucking
does.
is. And honestly, you can get better Cowboy Bebop film out of King Vader. Like he did Hood. Have you never heard of him?
No, I haven't
No.
heard of King Vader.
Oh, Jesus. You got to follow his ass on Twitter. This guy, like, he started like just backyard filmmaking like anyone, right? And his production value keeps going up and up. But yeah, he just makes fan films of his favorite shit. He's like a talented martial artist, and his friends are too. They're half decent actors. They've done fucking boatloads of like Dragon Ball videos that like when you watch them, you're like, holy shit, this is actually good. And he did Hood Cowboy Bebop, where it's just like he's Spike, but sure. It's like my biggest gripe with it is like, why are you carrying a 1911? That's supposed to be a Jericho 941. The fuck. But yeah, I mean, like, when I hear criticism, like, yeah, this looks like a YouTube fan film, it's like, yeah, it really does actually.
I think
It
that's
feels like-
mainly on the costumes. I mean, costume design in film and in television, especially when you're going with like a period piece or anything that requires, I guess, a more explosive or two-dimensional look, winds up looking super artificial these days because people just aren't really. They're not looking to mesh that with something that's actually functional for fashion, and they go with the most
It's
cartoonish
sense.
approach.
I'm so happy you said you were reminded of the Joel Schumacher Batman era, because I got that vibe too. Because then it's weird too when I think like, all right, this is the guy who directed A Time to Kill. Like he's not a joke director,
Right.
but you can see clearly like when he got given the reins of Batman, he's like, okay, I want to make a zany comic book movie. Like I remember Batman when I was young, and it just, yeah, I mean, you get Clooney and you get bat nipples and bat credit cards and shit. And that's
you
what
get the ice skating fight scene. That's very.
yeah.
That feels very much like the fights here at Cabo Dio. Like it's much more of a dance than a fight. That
100%.
has a lot made it feel a lot like that. I think one of the biggest problems with the writing too is that I don't know if the direction they were given was just think of Chuck Lorre writing Cowboy Bebop. That's it. Because every character has like a very Big Bang Theory retort to the things they say. Like everyone's very quippy and very clever, and they have
Yes.
something ready to come back with. And it's just that's not how people talk. This is
That
not a
and
conversation
actually,
at all.
yeah, and you didn't actually really have as much of that. Like, yeah, you had some good quippy bangers in the anime, but they were spread out. Kind of like you were saying with Faye's constant swearing. It's like I mean, I remember I used to try and teach my own kid like not to swear, not because it was rude, but I'm like, all right, you hear these like, you know, you hear your average fucking scumbags around Manchester, and every other word is fuck with them, right? She's like, yeah. I'm like, does that mean anything to you then? No. Now, if you don't say fuck all the time, and then you suddenly drop an F bomb in front of your friends, they're like, whoa, this person means what they're saying now. They don't talk like that. And it's this like everything about, I think a good way to describe the Cowboy Bebop live action, it's overabundant. Everything was like, they literally just dumped everything. And there was like no bad ideas in the writer's room, apparently. They're like,
What do
hey,
you
let's
what
keep
do you
going.
think they're going to do with this now? Because I'm assuming this was probably a hit just because of people's curiosity, and we know that their system is, well, if you watch like 5 seconds of it, that counts as a view. That's actually the most popular show in the history of television. I'm sure people tuned in droves for this, but I mean, even the critical reception, they tried to soften that a bit, and even still, like I think it's at like 58% or whatever on Rotten Tomatoes, which should be realistically, this is like a 33%
Yeah,
for a
it's like
series.
35 maybe.
It's below the level of quality of like a CW superhero show in terms of the writing and performances, in my opinion, anyway. What do you think they do? Do you think they just ignore what everybody is saying about the show, or do you think they're going to do like the Suicide Squad for season 2? It's like, all right, we're going to revamp the whole thing. It's going to have a different tone. We're going to
We
put in
heard
maybe a
you.
filmmaker.
We
The
heard
Cowboy
you.
Bebop.
The
Yeah, you
Cowboy
can
Bebop, yeah.
stop shouting on the internet. We heard you. Um See, this is the difficult thing is like, even when I was considering, like, you know, when you asked me to come on and talk about this too, and when I was watching it, and when I was watching the show today, when I was watching it the other day too, I actually did have to kind of like check myself a couple times. Not to the point where I'm like, actually, this is a great show and I'm an idiot, but more just I'm like, okay, what is it like I'm actually expecting as a big fan of the original?
Right.
And how easy would it be for them to actually make it to the mark? Because you take some shit like, I mean, 2016 Ghostbusters, right? You could tell no one involved with that really gave a fuck about, you know, Ghostbusters as a, and I hate to use the word canon because it was a lark of a movie. You know, it wasn't like this. They didn't set out to make a cinematic masterpiece there, but it's one of those things like you watch some of these reboots and remakes and you can just tell right off the bat, no one, like, they don't give a shit about what they're doing. You look at the new Dune film and you're like, all right, they really gave a shit about what they were doing. They tried very hard to do as best as they could, and they did a good job. This one the Bebop felt like everyone really wanted to do a good job with it. I don't think, I mean, even John Cho, I'm not, you know, I'm not impressed with his performances, Spike, but I'm not going to say he phoned it in. I'm just going to say he didn't hit the mark. My hope is, just as when I heard that they were making this, and I had the same idiot hope as a Doctor Who fan when they cast Jodie Whittaker and brought Chris Chibnall back, and I know that's not your area, but
No, it's certainly not. But continue.
yeah. No, but well, it's one of these things like, you know, like within a fandom, if you love a body of work, you want to see it done right. And I'm always I'm usually one of those hope for the best types. And then I'm like, I mean, Jodie Whittaker and Chris Chibnall pretty much killed the 50-year-old franchise. So with Doctor Who, I look at this, I see a mess that doesn't seem like it's a cash grab mess as much as it is just no one is really sure what the fuck they were doing. And I'm sure if they bring it back for a second season, I'm really, really hopeful that everyone involved is open to the legit criticism. Because I mean, you got a bunch of like, honestly, it did bring out a bunch of like, you know, like the sad Reddit virgins were like, they don't show enough big titties with the fake character, and that's what I like about her. It's like, you can get over that, okay? Give me a good character and a good story. If they come back in a second season and they actually listen to the real feedback, I think maybe they could pull something together. Like, I hate to say it, but recast Vicious, or just like tell the dude to just whisper most of his lines and not emote.
Yeah, don't be
Like,
Tommy Lee Jones's Two-Face in Cowboy Bebop. Don't deliver a 10 every single time. You can bring it down to a 3, and it
mhm.
might be okay. Yeah, I see. Here's the thing. It feels very. I mean, we've been talking about the Schumacher factor here, but it does feel bad in like a '90s way.
Oh yeah,
I
no. You know what I was thinking about today? I don't know why, but when I was watching, for some fucking reason, do you remember the RoboCop TV show?
I do. Prime Directive, I think it was called.
Oh God, I mean, yeah, it was like we're talking like late '90s here. No, mid to late '90s. I guess this is around like Batman the Animated Series was still on. I remember. I remember watching it as a kid. No, it's just like, and this is like when I'm all ADD'd out and just like running around high on sugar and caffeine. And it's like RoboCop's on. Cool. I'm gonna run around and play with toys. And hey, RoboCop's still on. Oh, RoboCop's over. Okay, I wonder what's on. I got that vibe. I was like, holy shit, this feels like RoboCop the series. Like this feels like shit. I think oh my god, did they try and do a Crow show?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. They did do The Crow as well. There
Well,
was
I have a
a string
better.
of sequels. Yeah.
Oh my god,
There's
you have
a,
one worse than that?
the director of this, or at least directed 5 episodes of it. He is executive producer of Birds of Prey. You
Oh,
remember that
the
Birds of
WB
Prey TV
show. Yeah,
Yeah.
hell yeah. Listen, when there were no
Wait,
Batman movies coming out,
WB show?
yeah, it was very short-lived. It was about 12 episodes, and it came out, I think, in 2001 or 2002. And
Whoa, fuck, okay.
they decided to throw that on and test the waters very early before even like maybe Smallville was out during that time.
Mhm.
And they decided, well, maybe we'll do a Gotham City one. And they got for the first episode, they brought out the Joker, and he was out of focus, and they had like a stand-in, and they got the voice of Mark Hamill for that character. And I was like, oh man, I'm gonna check out every episode of this show. I can't wait for the Joker to come back. He never came back. That was the end of
Oh
it.
yeah, it was just a shot. It was just like a blurry image of
Yep.
someone, and it's his
Right.
voice.
There were
Yeah, I
no
remember
Batman villains except in the season finale, which I don't even think was supposed to be the season finale. It just got canceled. It was Clayface, but
that.
they just got some like Italian guy with a like just a little bit of whatever on his face. Yeah, he was in prison. He had like a weird accent and everything, and I was just like, "This is what I did 12
I
weeks for."
I goddamn, I had no idea that even happened. Now, like this is, I mean, because I remember, was it? I want to say it was Bruce Campbell played the Flash in the '90s, right?
No, that was John Wesley Shipp. You're thinking Bruce Campbell had a show around the same time that WB produced, and I think was on the same network called like The Kid
Briscoe
of
County.
Briscoe County,
Oh,
where he's a
Briscoe County
cowboy.
Jr. I
Yeah,
remember that.
Adventures. Yeah,
Yeah,
Adventures of Briscoe County Jr.
I watched that show. I liked it.
That was great.
Yeah,
That show was great.
it was so dumb.
I
It
love
was
Bruce
so dumb.
Campbell.
No, well,
I
this
love
is
Bruce Campbell, but yeah.
well, this is. I mean, what's interesting is we're talking about these different shows, right? And we can see the difference between obvious, like, all right, let's see if we can produce this property to make money, versus like, let's give a real try at making something here. And it's kind of sad because I feel like the Bebop thing like kind of almost falls in the middle, leaning a bit towards more towards cash grab. It feels more like too many cooks in the kitchen. Studio wants to hit these notes, all this shit. But I do still weirdly get this genuine sense that the people who are really directly involved in its creation really wanted to do it.
No, I think that's completely the case. I don't think anyone wanted to fuck this up, especially in the way that they have fucked it up. Certainly not the cast. I think the cast thought, "Oh, we're part of something really special with this," and it just didn't go that way. I unfortunately I think from the top down, it was just people who had the wrong intentions when handling this property, and they mangled it. First of all,
What is it?
I don't
What is
even
it
think it
about
should have been a
anime
series
adaptation? Can you name an anime adaptation off the top of your head or in general
that works.
that
Um,
worked?
Dragon Ball: The Magic Begins. Chinese bootleg. No. That's. I mean, look. I kind of didn't mind aspects of the Death Note Adam Wingard one because they give up on it being Death Note like 3/4 of the way in, and are just like, yeah, fuck it. Well, you know what? We're just gonna make this into Adam Wingard film, and we're just gonna do 80s pop music and forget everything about. Who cares about the property? We're just gonna do our own thing. I don't mind that, but it's clearly not like a good adaptation of Death Note.
You know what would be funny? They could actually. I don't know if you've ever heard of the film, but Grave of the Fireflies.
Yes, yeah, I've
Yeah,
watched that.
imagine them adapt if they adapted that live action. That would either be like one of the most like horrifying experiences, or it would be like Schindler's List level Oscar bait.
I think there actually might be. I think
Fuck.
they may have done it already in Japan.
Oh,
I feel like there's two. There has to be two versions of that. I believe. I could be misremembering. Um, Maybe the closest thing that comes to mind is they did a live action adaptation of Jinro the Wolf Brigade called Elong the Wolf Brigade in Korea, and that wasn't even a good movie, but it visually looked pretty good.
well, they. I
There's
mean,
a there's
oh,
a Grave of the Fireflies live action movie from
Haha.
2005.
From
Jesus
when?
fuck.
2005.
Okay, I thought so.
Also, Old Boy is a manga, right?
No, there's no anime of that though. That doesn't
Oh,
count.
anime. Right, right.
Yeah, the
Fair
Korean.
enough.
No, the
Okay.
Koreans don't do it that way too. I mean, like it's pretty much a Japanese thing when it's like they go from manga to anime.
What about Detective Pikachu?
Yep, you're right. You nailed it. That's what, 80% on Rotten Tomatoes? That's the first one. There you go.
I still can't believe that movie's better reviewed than Sonic. I to this day, and this is a weird thing for me to say even now, but I remember like I sat down to have like a viewing party on Discord with like friends of my show, and I randomly am like, all right, I have acquired Sonic the movie. If this sucks within 10 minutes, we can watch something else. Otherwise, we can just make fun of it. 10 minutes in, there's like a dozen of us, and we're sitting silently watching the Sonic movie. And it's like, hey, this is better than it should be. I'm confused. Why are there decent jokes? Why is the pacing working? Why do I give a shit about this cartoon squirrel thing?
J. Markson vehicle.
Yeah, he fucking killed it. I mean, I still get a chuckle when I think about like they're heading to the roof for, because the plot needs to happen. And they're like, "Is that a child in your bag?" He's like, "Oh, don't worry, it's not mine." Like, like right there. And it's like, that's gonna and then I think like, all right, so like video game adaptations. I think I think Sonic, and I can rewatch Mario for nostalgia's sake.
The Super Mario Brothers from 1993.
Oh yeah.
I
I
watched.
mean,
I
it's
guess it's a
fun.
work print. You know what? It has a lot of visual flair to it and good production design.
And
And
everyone looks like they're having fun, and it's a fun movie. It's cotton candy. I mean, there's no gristle or really
well,
anything to it.
let me tell you something. That's not true because Bob Hoskins said my biggest regret was playing Mario and the Mario Brothers. I wish I could take that back. Apparently, John Leguizamo was also like a big shot on set, just trying to like alpha everybody because he was at like the top of his career. And the directing duo,
Imagine
I think, was a married couple, if I remember correctly. And they were apparently just bickering throughout the entire shoot, and it would fuck up the flow of everybody doing takes. And, but somehow, I
being on
watched it
set.
again. It's an impressive piece of art. I'll say that.
Fun and stupid.
Yeah.
Speed Racer. Forgot about Speed Racer. Speed Racer is pretty good.
Sure. Yeah, the Wachowskis.
I enjoy Speed Racer. Yeah.
Would
there's
would it have
They
been
were-
better if the Wachowskis did this in 2007?
I think I could bring us actually back around to Bebop again though, because to a certain extent, like so much of like the set piece action to the show, it's I'd almost call it kind of gratuitous to the point where like, and again, you can kind of tell like there are too many people and no one's paying enough attention. The rooftop kung fu pole fight between Spike and Hakeem, yeah, which itself was, it's like, okay, you're dancing, great, but there's a whole sequence. He drops his gun behind the bar, right? This is almost like an anti-Chekhov's gun thing. He like gets knocked over, which the real Spike, like, this really wouldn't happen. I mean, he drops his gun behind the bar. That's never addressed. He just runs after the bad guy, has a fist fight with him on the roof, and then gets his life saved, and then everything's back. It's like, okay, so hang on. Like, he didn't actually collect his weapon. And I'm like, okay, well, I can forgive that. And then they got a sniper scene randomly, which is dumb too, because it's like, you can just kill this bad guy right now who you fucking hate, who ruined your life. No, you're not going to. and you're gonna leave this bolt action AR-15 again.
You're gonna
I
let
like,
him know that you know he's there. Yeah.
yeah, and I'm just like, I mean, I'm just like, what the fuck? First, that's the other thing too, is we see him assemble the sniper rifle. Maybe I'm sure it's a real rifle, but I'm like, all right, why did you get a thing that looks like an AR? And I believe it looked like it was magazine fed, but it's a bolt action for the effect, right? Just because because the movie needs it, and it's just, and then he gets up and just walks away and just leaves this this obviously expensive rifle behind when he's got $7 in his pocket, and you're not paying attention to what's going on, writers. Let's gotta follow your own story. I just finished a novel and I'm having to go back and I'm I fucked up. Shit, I said in the beginning this guy's office was on this floor, and then I said it was on a different floor later. I need to fix that for something called, what's that C word? Continuity. Fuck. I mean, sorry, I get a little emotional.
Who would you have cast as opposed to John Cho and the other two for these? If let's assume the right parties come together and do let's ignore that this ever happened. Okay, the slate is clear. Who is your version of Spike Spiegel?
With modern day actors at the ages that they are?
Let's make it pretty wide open and say just about anybody. Past, present, future, any rendition of any actor.
Why the fuck? Oh, that was weird. For some reason, my brain, I think it's the part that hates me, said, I bet a sleeper hit for this could be Nicholas Hoult. And I'm like, wait, why would you think that?
Well, he's Renfield now, isn't he? Or they just announced him and Nick Cage are doing a Dracula movie for the monster universe of Universal Films. Are you excited for that, Hans? Nicolas Cage is Dracula?
Yeah.
They're still doing the monster universe?
They've been trying so desperately to get something going with that. They're like, there's money to be made here, but we just can't figure out how to do it. Tom Cruise is going to be one of the mummies or something. Maybe that'll do it. What about Wolfman with Ryan Gosling? Wolfman. All right, no, not quite. All right. What do we got? Dracula. 3 versions of Dracula Untold. Nick Cage Dracula. Bela Lugosi. We'll do a CG Bela Lugosi maybe. Just doughy faced.
If they were
opium addict Bela.
If they were gonna let him do Vampires Kiss Nicolas Cage, I would be excited because it's such a wild performance. And if they were going that route, yeah. But he's gonna play straight Dracula and Nicolas Cage, right?
Yes.
You know what?
So I don't know. I don't know. I like him. I like him recently a lot more than I did before because I've been just rewatching his movies. But
he was supposed to play Max. What was the actor's name? I think it was Max Schreck, who played Nosferatu. He was supposed to play him in the one with Willem Dafoe and John Malkovich that came
Shadow
out.
of the Vampire.
Shadow of the Vampire.
Yeah, I remember. I love that film.
I think he settled for an executive producer credit or something. Said, "All right, Willem can play this actor."
It looks exactly like him.
I know,
Yeah.
perfect.
So, well, Jay, I think I have an answer actually to your original question there, though.
Mhm.
It took me a minute because I was racking my brain. I'm like, I don't fucking know. But I think honestly, and this might sound a little weird, I think Joseph Gordon-Levitt could play Spike if he could sort of reprise. Well, if he was younger, because that guy's got he's got wrinkles like old shoes now. Yeah, but no, Inception specifically, Inception
I
era.
thought you were gonna say Third Rock from the Sun. Joseph.
Yeah,
Gordon-Levitt.
that's a little too young. It's a little on the young side. Amos Yee would love it, but
damn, that's
but
a
no,
throwback reference to what 27. Isn't he in prison now?
he just got arrested. He got arrested today or yesterday.
I wonder what for. I can only imagine.
I mean, click on my link and you what you'll find will shock you. No,
You don't want Joseph Gordon-Levitt from Don John, where he's just like a Jersey Shore guy playing.
Yeah, no, you
Spike
get Tony
Spiegel.
Danza to play Spike Spiegel.
just actually, I just get actually it'll just end up being Nicolas Cage. I gave up on being a superhero. I just want to play anything now. Yeah, whatever happens. Actually, that's more like Owen Wilson, right? Owen Wilson. Spike Spiegel. Wow, that's
Owen Wilson plus. Yeah, that's a tough one because he has to be very charismatic,
He's
right?
got to be charismatic, but it's got to be it's got to be play it's subdued.
Subtle. Right, right,
Yeah.
right. So like natural charisma, not what John Cho did, which it was
Natural
trying to be
charisma,
that.
natural born killers. How about Woody Harrelson?
Give him a good old wig, and he
You
can
bring
play
him.
anything. I
Hey,
found
remember
out.
that real
Give him
the carnage at the end of Venom, the first one,
yes.
where he had the
I
little
was
orphan Annie
about
wig.
to
That's what you
say.
do. You just dye it black. It can work out.
Oh, yeah.
My pick would be I would go with 1970s Long Goodbye era Elliot Gould. I think that is the closest character you get to a Spike Spiegel in a film, just in terms of tone, vibe, kind of cool but not too cool for the room. Like a
The
bit of a
Jewish
fuck
Spy
up, yeah.
Spiegel.
Well, very. Yes,
Spice
we're
Spike
gonna lean into
Spiegelstein. It
it.
was great.
Well, part of what
I think it'd work.
I think part of what also, I think part of what actually makes that really a difficult sort of question to answer in general, though, is also that if most of us, I'm personally most familiar with the dubbed version of Cowboy Bebop,
Mm,
and normally I prefer subtitles, but the voice acting that they got, specifically Steve Bloom,
yeah.
and like it is like that voice itself becomes iconic, like that, like the tone and the voice and the delivery that he put into Spike on the in the original anime, or the the adapted anime, um basically told you everything you needed to know about the character. And to match that, it's like that was the thing that impressed me with the actor who played Jet, was his tone, his cadence, his syntax, everything. He sounded like Jet. He acted like Jet. Like he really got that role. He fucking nailed it. And I'm thinking like, well, okay, but I'm thinking he nailed this role that I love from this thing that I'm gonna be really protective of because I'm a fan, but also he's matching the tonality to this character as it was done in a different medium. And I think it's because such a high bar was set in that medium that to sort of like cross over that. It's not like DC. It's not like DC or Marvel shit where you can just say, "Yeah, this is the voice. Chris Evans is Captain America." We're all just like, "Well, of course he is. We don't know what he sounds like." You try and do that with something like Bebop, where like it's not a comic thing. It's a it's an actual cartoon, and you're just like, okay, well this doesn't sound or feel anything like that character. Maybe if you could actually have gotten 90s era McConaughey to do a slightly more chipper Rust Cole, you could have had a decent Spike.
Mm.
Maybe.
That's I haven't heard McConaughey suggested as Spike Spiegel before. That's an interesting pick. Could he do like a more neutral cadence? Because I feel like it's just so that southern
If you
charm
watch,
is baked into the voice.
yeah, but if you watch The Dark Tower, you can see he can do a role with no spirit or cadence whatsoever.
That's a good
Yeah,
point.
you can watch him do girl what is it, Ghosts of Girlfriend's Past. And he's pretty spiky in that.
Yeah, yeah.
Fool's Gold. He's very Spike Spiegel.
Damn, fool's gold. Wow, you're really cutting deep. Hans, what about you? Who would you cast as Spike?
I don't know. I something about this casting though made me a little bit uncomfortable regarding the dialogue, because when you watch an anime, unless they make the race very obvious, like Mr. Popo, like you mentioned, I don't really watch anime and think, oh, this person is Chinese, this person is this person is other, this person is whatever. Once you switch that to live action and one of the actors is Chinese or Japanese or Korean or whatever he's supposed to be, and everyone else is normal, when Jet tells him, go eat your noodles, it's kind of racist. I was like, oh, wait a second. That doesn't really work that well here because you don't look the same. In the anime, everyone's neutral. So it's like, of course, he eats noodles. It's Japanese or whatever. That it makes sense they eat that. But here, when they had that whole cup of noodles thing, I was like, all right, we get it. He's Asian. Like, why is it so much focus put on this man and his noodles? And it's from keeping, I guess, that character loyal to being Asian, even though no one else in the anime and the live action is Asian, at least that I saw. So I guess if you're going to keep that, if you're not going to turn it into just like a regular white actor, it's difficult because it feels like Hollywood only likes two Asian actors, him and the Walking Dead guy, right? Can you think of any other young-ish Asian actors that lead movies right now? I think those are and the other the I can't even think of his fucking name. And he does like independent movies. I guess that's the only reason why.
Oh,
he's
Steve
like,
Yeun, you're talking about.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
like
yeah.
what was his name? Henry Golding, but he's cast as basically like a white guy and everything. I think he gets. I mean, he was in the Kingsman, the not the Kingsman, the Gentleman, the what was it? Guy Ritchie film.
Oh,
He's
Oh
done.
yeah, that was like the actually I heard that was like that didn't really that wasn't well received in general, if I'm not mistaken.
I've heard people who watched it enjoyed it, but it definitely did not do well critically. People had some
Oh,
problems
okay.
with it.
all
Well,
right.
I mean,
How about this? You do camera tricks to make Jackie Chan look taller and have a young Jackie
A
Chan
young
play
Jackie
Spike
Chan.
Spiegel.
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
I mean, I could
dub
say
his
one thing, though,
voice.
just well, you brought well, I mean, you did bring up the noodles thing, and this again is like my fanboy coming out. But it's like I mean, so one of the things is like, and it was interesting because it was kind of Blade Runner esque, in this it's kind of dystopian future of Cowboy Bebop in the anime. Especially on Mars, there's like a very heavy Chinese influence, and Spike is rolling around eating noodles and drinking whatever garbage Chinese fucking booze they drink, and like these like that is that like that cultural side of things is actually kind of it's in continuity, and it's just kind of sad though because this thing is such a mess that you wouldn't know otherwise.
Right.
Like you could have even watched it and be like, oh, okay, you're going for that Blade Runner Cyberpunk 2077 dollar, huh? Okay, then. Like, well, yeah, that's what it was doing to begin with. But
Yeah.
yeah, it could look like a dumb cash grab by people who don't know what they're doing otherwise. I think one of the most egregious things, though, I didn't actually, because like I had to rewatch it because like I kept falling asleep. I did actually skip forward and I watched like the ending of the last episode of this season to see their interpretation of Radical Edward, which
Oh yes, which that is probably the most Joel Schumachery of the
jarring,
performances.
Got the
garish.
little boy at the end.
It's a girl, but
Redhead.
yeah.
Oh, it's a girl.
Well,
Okay.
no, actually, that I mean, I'm glad they got that right because like you don't even know if Ed is a boy or a girl in the show until like it's spoken aloud like 6 episodes after some shit. But this round-faced potato really gave it her all. And I don't mean to be insulting, but she gave it her all, but it just didn't fucking work.
Hey, is that Lena Dunham?
No, it's her sister.
God.
She's hence like the wild look in the eyes. Yeah, now Ed is a character like Ed's almost a character that I'd almost say like you don't want to try. You don't want to try to do this. It's nothing you can do will work. I mean maybe if you take an Elle Fanning from maybe like 2012 and just like pushed a whole bunch of Adderall into her face, yeah, then you might get kind of close to something that might work. But this thing was garish.
Kubrick's Cowboy Bebop.
Did it make you excited for season 2?
No, I didn't even see the whole thing, and I was like, "Is this how they're gonna end this season?" Okay, that's cool. I
They're
guess
teasing the full team, full roster coming together. You get Ein. You're not excited about that?
Dog. Oh my god. Also, they fucked that up too, because the dog's supposed to be like hyper intelligent and no one knows, and that's kind of a gag. But oh no, in this one, it's just a dog, and you look at you. You happen to push the right button for me. It's like, okay, where's Kevin McAllister? We need some more. We need some more plot convenience here.
I did like some of the gadgets though, even though a lot of it looked very cheap. Some of the what would you call it? Like the way they would communicate with each other, the gadgets they use. Some of them look very, very retro futuristic, which was kind of cool. And if I can say something positive about the show, I enjoyed some of that, and I also like that at least the directors tried. I don't know if they succeeded with it, but they tried to give it a different look than a regular whatever show. So they did a lot of split screen. They do a lot of Dutch angle shots that don't really work most of the time.
Too many Dutch angle shots. That's literally like the primary go-to angle that they apply for any given scene.
But I feel like that also comes from not having just one vision for everything, where they're trying to do too many different things to make it different, but then it becomes too weird. I don't want to say too weird because I do like weird experimental things, but a lot of the time I was just sitting there thinking, why is this the shot? Like this is such an
Right,
odd
it's just
looking shot.
disjointed and cheap. That's all it really is. I don't think it. I mean, actually, this just came to mind real quick. Nick, what did you think of this new Fearless twist? His
Oh
name's really
God.
Fearless. How about that?
Fucking
That's a cool name, is Fearless.
No, I know. This is what I mean when I say that it does feel like they had this like team of 8 writers, like probably fresh out of community college or something, and they're just like they're like this is what you get. This is the end result of the no bad ideas mentality, because that was needless and stupid and what the fuck? I mean, and you go back, if you go and watch like the original show, all of them, everyone's calling him Spike. That's his name. In fact, you could almost infer from the fact that his last name is Spiegel and he's got like bushy fucking hair, he might be Jewish.
Mhm.
Wow, shocker. My people getting represented in all kinds of media these days. But it was like, why his name was Fearless? Shut the fuck up. No, it wasn't. Who thought that was like what? It doesn't serve the plot at all.
Sounds
It
cool.
serves no purpose. It was
Yeah,
just some
it's a
cool
hip
idea.
Anglo-Saxon name, Fearless.
And
It's like
there's
the reaction to it. The reaction to it was like, that
What?
you said
Who the
that
hell are
word?
you? What?
my
It's like a
name.
Duke Nukem game.
Yeah, I mean, it's up there. It's. I think honestly, I think the Fearless thing is right up there with them deciding like, you know what we need. You know what make Vicious a really terrifying villain is a lot of sincere emotion. That's what we need from our guy. It's named Vicious because he cuts people with his sword and he runs a tuna factory, fucking apparently. And yeah, let's make him feel more. That'll humanize him. What do we do with Spike? We can give him a new name that he never had and didn't need.
How else? How else could you come up with a backstory where he killed for the syndicate? If not giving him a cool name of a killer, I guess.
Oh,
I don't know.
that's-
It's so bad.
That's another plot fucking continuity thing I was thinking about, bothered me earlier. So he's got his like greatest enemy at the end of a scope, yeah? And he can clip him any old time, right? And he decides not to. This is the same guy who in previous episodes we watch mercilessly just plug unarmed people
Mhm.
that he beat in a fist fight, and he just like empties mags into them and looks at them like, why did you waste my time with that? And then it's like, now I have my greatest enemy here. I'm gonna leave this gun. I want to walk away from the gun because symbolism. I'm the good guy.
He does the Nicolas Cage shrug from Face Off when in the first episode when he beats up a guy and he's trying to get information and the guy's like, fuck you, and he's like, all right. He just shrugs and like shoots him like 6-7 times.
Mhm, mhm.
So yeah, it feels like an odd choice for him to, the guy that you hate the most, the guy that took your woman, right? That's what that's what I got from the 3 episodes because they kind of mention it at the end.
Sure.
That's the guy that I'm just gonna let him live. And now he's chained up by the girl and Spike survived that fall.
Does any of
don't
this
know why.
transcend being so bad that it becomes enjoyable for either of
No.
you guys? Because for me, I steamrolled through the entire thing, and I felt nothing. I could recognize, wow, this is cringe acting. This is really bad chroma key backgrounds. But I just felt nothing at all for the characters, for what I had on screen. It might as well have been like a log, 10-hour screensaver from YouTube, just playing.
I think that's why it reminded me of a Chuck Lorre show. You don't have, and this is something that the anime does in the first 5 minutes, I think, which is just, hey, show them doing something that's not plot related. So they're eating. I think he's having like some snacks or something, and they're just bantering with each other, just talking about whatever because they know.
No, that was the one. Yeah, he's we actually no, we're introduced to Spike. He's doing martial arts and zero G there. Jet's
Right.
cooking in a wok, and then like they bicker because he's like, it's bell peppers and beef. He's like, there's no beef in here. And they're
Right.
bickering about being broke and not having any meat. Yeah.
Well,
But
in
that's
this
the fact
one,
that
you get Jet playing with the bidets, and he doesn't know how to use a bidet, and it's it's a very charming sequence. We really love these characters afterward, and then Faye rushes in, and she's like, what is this?
the
Oh,
Marx
it's water."
Brothers Cowboy Bebop. Yeah, it's great.
Exactly.
It's I think it's the opposite of so bad it's good, in the sense that like you almost feel bad because you can see effort was applied. We could say that. That's like, if I was a critic, that's what I'd like, my little quote on the DVD box set.
It was in the trailer. Effort
That's
was
what it would be.
applied.
There was clearly effort at some point, but it's one of these things, like, and again, I mean, I want to take, I don't, Jay, you know me, I'm a pretty nihilistic dude in general, so I'm not one to be an optimist typically about
Sure.
anything, but I want to be optimistic about this, and that I want them to come back with a second season where they're like, okay, we can see where we fucked up, because we've seen this in TV shows before, like a first season is absolute garbage and somehow
Sure.
gold out of it. I'd love to see that. Do I think it's gonna happen? Oh God, I'm getting gassy just thinking about it. No, I don't think it'll happen, and that's the sad thing, because I'd like it to be bad, or I'd like it to be good, and if it can't be good, I'd like it to be so bad that it's good. But
You have a
it's
good
just
point in that, I mean, if you take a look at any series, usually the first episode is pretty not great. And the first season of anything that, at least let's consider like a pre AMC, pre Breaking Bad, we'll put HBO in a different column, because up to a point, that sort of season long
Those are
arc idea didn't trickle into
films.
regular, right. It didn't trickle into normal television up until Breaking Bad and Mad Men. So prior to that time, right? On and off. It depends.
Oz.
Sure, but that's HBO, right? So
Okay. Oh, so yeah. Okay,
yeah.
sorry. Yeah.
Let's remove premium cable from that equation.
Yeah.
So up until
Yeah.
then, you get like NYPD Blue, Miami Vice,
Alias.
Alias. Yeah, damn, that is a ABC callback I wasn't expecting tonight. Victor Garber on Alias, great.
Man, I mean, I didn't know people could I didn't know, I heard of double agents, but I mean, I'm not good at math, but I don't know how many times you can betray two different sides.
Yeah, I never tuned into that. Wasn't it? That was
I never-
J.J. Abrams, I think, right? But
God.
anyway, we're getting lost
Back
here.
to your point.
So you would check out any of these series, and usually the first season is absolutely the roughest, and they don't figure out what they're going for until about late season 2, early season. I mean, even with Breaking Bad, and Breaking Bad season 1 and 2 are fine, but it doesn't become the show that everybody knows it as until probably late or mid season 4. Maybe late season 3, you can make the argument, but even that is still tonally a little wishy-washy.
It starts picking up in mid season 3 is where it really kind of starts picking up in the direction that it's really headed. Yeah.
Right. It becomes an actual piece of art, I would say, around that time, as opposed to a pretty good cable show. So there's potential, maybe, but I don't trust Netflix. I don't think Netflix guiding the ship creatively on anything. They're best when they just give people money and leave them alone. But even then, there seems to be some kind of issue of any sort of sticking power, because none of the Netflix films, save for a few, are all that memorable or impressive even.
I'm sorry. Are you saying Bright didn't strike a chord with you?
Oh
Well,
God,
Bird
I haven't
Box
thought
didn't-
of Max
Bird
Landis
Box didn't make you.
in a moment. I didn't even watch Bird Box. I wouldn't dare put on Bird Box when that was a big cultural moment. Everybody's tuning into Bird
Yeah.
Box that week. Cool.
I mean, this is the same company that it proudly presents us Joe Exotic, right? I mean, Netflix kind of Netflix, in a real genuine way, I think, does kind of represent that very unfortunate shift in media and art that I think we got out of YouTube, because it's not quality, it's quantity. They're like, let's keep just shovel shit out, whatever it is. Hey, dude, we can get The Rock and Ryan Reynolds in a movie with Gal Gadot. What's the movie? Who gives a shit? And it's fine. And then the thing is, too, is the audience is like, the broader audiences respond to it as being fine. And it's kind of like, it's almost like Scorsese's point about the MCU stuff, you know? I can see why he says it's not cinema and that it's like a roller coaster. I can, I don't necessarily even know that I agree. I really enjoy the Marvel movies, and I think it's more like Skarsgård, Stellan Skarsgård said, he's like, I think they have their place. I think the problem is just that production is so controlled by these small handful of companies, and all they're interested in is the bottom dollar. So you're not getting art house cinema screened in independent cinemas anymore because there's no more independent cinemas, and because everything's straight direct to fucking video. And it's kind of sad that you can self-publish on Amazon, but like, you're never gonna see your fucking passion project that's actually really well done. You're not gonna see your Good Will Hunting end up on Amazon Prime just because it doesn't have Ryan Reynolds and The Rock in it.
Right. So I actually think, and you brought up self-publishing, I think that what is happening to the filmmaking industry right now is mirroring what happened to the publishing industry when self-publishing became a more prominent trend, which is that only your Hunger Games and Harry Potter books and all these big titles are really going to sell, right? And you're going to see the entire industry of people making things terraform to meet the standard of your average person being able to throw something together. And what's going to happen is you're going to have two extremes there, where you're going to have some really small, interesting stuff, and then really dull, well-made, explosive, big blockbuster properties. And that's kind of the space we're existing in currently, anyway.
It's funny because actually, like, and I'm almost certain you guys have seen the documentary Side by Side.
The Keanu Reeves one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Really, I thought it was really good, and it was a very interesting dive into like this evolution of cinema, like you mentioned too earlier, like, and I remember back in like 2008 when digital TVs and digital broadcasting became a thing, and I saw it in cinema too when they started switching over to digital. Like, everyone from makeup and lighting to set design, everyone needed to readjust, because all of a sudden you're not getting that, you're not getting that smudged bit of film, you're not getting that natural lens flare. Everything's sharp and crisp, and like, depth of field sometimes.
You can also see the grease in Matt Lauer's pores every Monday morning.
Oh, dude, the news here have not figured out HD cameras yet. So the way they put makeup on, you're just kind of like, oh, why is this person orange today?
Just their neck and their face are two different colors.
Yeah.
First place I remember noticing this. This was like, I used to work in politics back in the day, and I was like subcontracting with a union, just as like an election drive kind of thing. And we got together at this bar that had this big fancy plasma TV, and they were airing the debate between Obama and John McCain. And I remember watching this in like high definition, and I'm like both of these men look ghoulish. Like, they look like they got like, it's like makeup by Dutch Boy or something. I couldn't fathom it. But I brought up Side by Side though, because one of the interesting things I noticed that was brought up towards the end of the film was how digital photography kind of it democratizes filmmaking. Like, the kind of shit we did on Mass State Lottery, if we were ourselves trying to make a movie in the 90s, would not have been nearly as easy.
Oh, hell no.
Even possible.
We got a friend, the Kino Corner, who shot his first movie on, I think it was like 16 millimeter. And it's a small 90-minute film, and he shot it around, I think, his college he was going to at the time. He's only like a 25-year-old guy. And I asked him, so, like, how much did it cost to get all that film developed? And he said to me, $60,000. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? $60,000 to develop? That's out of the realm of just my perspective.
That's the budget of the film with Lilo Brancato that I got fucked on recently. I mean,
we'll cover that on movies at some point. I'm sure Sleepyhead will be a great show to have you on for.
Yeah. And well, I mean, I only blame James, and I hope everyone else involved has a good time and they make
I
something
was
good.
briefly in talks to edit the film, and that did not go anywhere. So,
Yeah, yeah. The guy's got he's really good at following up. But enough of my bitterness.
mhm.
What I was thinking though, and this had just occurred to me, is so we got this ongoing debate about the state of film right now. Where you got your Scorsese's who are saying like all these big blockbusters are just cotton candy and it's bullshit. And then you got Stellan Skarsgård saying like, yeah, well, we're only getting bullshit because these corporations control everything. And it's kind of strange though, because as the in Side by Side, one of the questions that and it was Scorsese was part of this discussion was that with this proliferation, like if it, so all of a sudden now anyone can make a film. You can make a film if you've got a camera. You can make a film, but because of that, like yes, the artist, the auteur with this brilliant vision who might have never gotten it made when there were other corporate gatekeepers can now produce it. But can you find it? Because it's swimming in this ocean of other shit. Like everyone's iPhone backyard fucking slasher film is an independent film right alongside whatever the next Darren Aronofsky's gonna fucking be like. And so we get this thing, and I notice even with YouTube, like I mean, I went from doing, and this is one of the sadder things, when I used to just sit on camera and bitch about dumb fucking news items and politics and shit. Oh yeah, there was traffic. Then when I started making art, doing short like films, basically telling short stories, dropped off entirely because the YouTube in general doesn't really support that content. And I found that the people who make the content that I like that, people like Exerbia and like Stories of Old, they're gravitating towards this service that they made themselves called Nebula. And it's one of these things like, okay, well, we've got corporate gatekeepers here. So our choice is either try to start our own thing and hope people pay attention, or play the game that like the corporations or the studios want, so that our vision that we can make on a shoestring budget can get somewhere. And so I don't know, it's a weird thing to see evolve, because it's just, if you hand everyone the keys if you hand everyone the keys, everyone's going to press and no one's going to get through the door.
I tend to, I lean on the side of if somebody makes a quality piece of art, in spite of all those options being out there, I think if there's at least one spot where that can be available, eventually it'll get noticed. But that could take up to 40 years. It could take 50 years. And who wants to be around for that? But I tend to believe that that's probably more the case than not. I think there is room for people making their own shit on a shoestring budget and being able to get in through the door if they make the right moves. And maybe they can't even make maybe they can make all the right moves within this little sphere of things, and that won't be enough. I think you have to start pivoting and strategizing for all the factors that are kind of shoulder to shoulder with it. Like a movie we talked about on here that won some prize at the Berlin Film Festival is Dasha Nekrosova's The Scariest 61st, which looks like it has a budget that is maybe about $15,000 less than what we shot with Mass State Lottery, and surely was more. And it has been a very successful film. Shudder bought it, and they're going to put it out in theaters in December. And it's just a very personal, small, kind of jokey Epstein, clearly inspired by. We're in like a current zeitgeist of people who are inspired by Eyes Wide Shut. I've seen a ton of movies this year that feel very like we just watched Eyes Wide Shut, and look. There's aspects to that with Mass State Lottery, 100%. But you see that movie, Scary 61st, The Beta Test. These movies all have that flair to them, and they seem to be small and doing fairly well. But I mean, I don't know. The industry as a whole, I wouldn't have a problem with the Marvel films or the Disney movies or anything like that if they didn't set the tone for what's going to be released to theaters. But that's just how it's going to be. I think theaters are certainly on their way out. We've been saying that for a long time now. But, I mean, can you even name 4 movies that are currently playing at your local theater? Because I can't. And I could have any other week
And
prior
half
to
of
this
them
year.
is streaming too.
Oh, shit.
Right. they
yeah.
just keep the same movies in. I'm pretty sure I could go walk up the street and see Pig again, and I saw that back in like September or something. So I don't know. Actually,
well,
you know what? I did see
don't-
Resident Evil: Welcome to Raccoon City. And Hans, I do want you to watch this movie. I like this movie. I thought it. Look, I hate all those Resident Evil films. I hate that they have nothing to do with the games. This gave me what I needed. This was.
Oh yeah.
Also, I just found out we got that deposit back on the rental car. Thank fucking God. Thank you, Jerry, for
Yeah.
that breaking news.
My
Phew.
So my theater right now has an animated Disney movie about another Mexican family or Mexican girl called Encanto. That's all over the
Okay.
airports. I don't know if, well, I guess you guys were in the
I'm
airport.
sure that's a thing here too.
You got Eternals. No, the airport's there. That's why I'm mentioning it. Like on the
Mhm.
New York airport, there were ads for that shit all over the
Yep.
place. It looks very Coco like. Then you got Eternals. You got the new Ghostbusters and the new
Ghostbusters.
Resident Evil.
Nick, what do you
It's-
think
that's it.
about them bringing Harold Ramis back to life for the new Ghostbusters?
What did he
Yeah.
do? Does he do like a
So
go
I haven't watched the movie.
on Ghost?
I've watched
I haven't
clips of
I haven't
it from a 123 Movies link, and I went to the scene, and I was like, all right, well that's not that bad, right? Because he pops up in the way he does. I won't spoil anything for that because that's a
Yeah.
new movie, but he
I've
pops up
heard-
the way he
I've heard
does,
Spoilers, yeah.
and then he sticks around, and I was like,
Oh no!
You know,
why is he still on
Oh.
screen? Uh-oh, now he's part of the movie. Oh God,
Oh
If-
no!
why are they doing this?
if it works in service of the story correctly, like on that side, like on the storytelling side, I'm like, okay, I guess I'm fine with that. If it gets to a point though where like, because then you've got that, there's that whole question of like, okay, like, if Harold Ramis wanted to sign on, if he was still alive, wanted to sign on and do a new Ghostbusters, right? That's one thing. He's not around to
Right.
say if he wants
Who's-
to.
He didn't even die like a
Making
year
the
before or around 26.
No.
He died in 2014. So this was
He
before
didn't
even
start
female
shooting
Ghostbusters.
it. Yeah.
Right. And here's the thing.
Well, I mean, I get why
Here's
you-
what I dislike about it because at first it's like, all right, we see him, and it's like it's almost tastefully done and it makes sense to the story. But then he sticks around and like Bill Murray's making jokes and he doesn't say anything. He just kind of nods his
It's-
head and stuff. It's weird. It's fucking horrible.
it's the gratuity question,
Mhm.
really. It's like, okay, is this genuinely necessary? Does it serve the story well? I mean, I've got, right now especially, I've got a weird, perspective on death and memory and legacy and grief. And then I also think though too, because we think of Harold Ramis, he was Egon in Ghostbusters. He was the smart one in Ghostbusters. You forget that like he was the comic genius mostly behind its production. Like
Right.
he was this guy came out of National fucking Lampoons. If you want a fun movie to watch, go watch A Futile and Stupid Gesture.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good.
wonderful fucking film about National Lampoons. And then when you see like Harold Ramis portrayed as a young man and you realize like, wait, this is the scene he came out of. Okay. Like I could see it kind of like almost the Bill Murray perspective. Like Murray didn't want to do any new Ghostbusters because like no one's gonna want to watch or just drag our old asses around in jumpsuits. He didn't want to like take away from what they'd done before. If it could be said that like Ramis's CG resurrection actually served the story and was tasteful. Again, I'm still on the fucking fence because I'm thinking like as an actor, I'm like, all right, I'd like to choose the roles that I do, and I can't do that when I'm dead. So
Hans,
It's-
if you
it's
passed
also-
away suddenly
I was gonna
tonight,
ask. I was gonna
would you
ask
be
that,
would you be
yeah.
offended if I just kind of like took a screenshot of you and then moved your mouth up and down like a South Park character to finish the movie?
You've done worse on sketches, I think. So I think I'm good. Whenever you hit me up with like, "Hey, can you record these 5-second voice clip?" I'm like, "Oh, Jesus, sure."
You know what? Here's the
Wonder
thing.
what this is gonna be.
For this shoot, I have to really give you credit for being such a good sport and good team player about. I mean, you too, Nick, for losing the eyebrows. I don't even want to talk about this stuff though. I'd rather leave it be a surprise later on. But both of you guys really just have a great knack for not questioning my ideas at all that may potentially humiliate you. It's like, yeah, just
Strange
hold
way
on.
to put that. Thank
Uh,
you, Jay. It's
just,
a weird way to put it, but I'll take it in the spirit I imagine it was offered in.
No, look, it's all going to work out exquisitely. Okay, Hans, you putting on some white face and dressing like a vampire and going around a playground at night.
Yeah.
Look, it's all going to be terrific when you guys see
Like
the final
15
product.
degrees or however fucking cold it
Yeah,
was.
these
I'm
are-
just sweating and it's free. I've
These will
never been
be-
this cold in
look,
like 5 years. And
There'll be
yeah.
great deleted scenes that I keep on my personal hard drive and watch by myself for the
Yeah.
next
I'll say
40
after-
years.
Having shaved all of the hair off of my head for 2 now different projects, and also enjoying this, I don't want to say portly, but barreling in on middle-aged body type I've got, I look at the sacrifices that great actors like Christian Bale made for the mechanic, and I think that's better than keto. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know
yeah.
what? Anything for the art.
Yeah, 1 can of tuna and 1 apple a day, right? That's what he
I
ate.
think that his diet was something like that. It was like a cigarette and an apple. All right, cool.
Jesus.
Oh, I'd have to cut the beer out, huh? Well, so much for that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
But what were we even talking about before we got on the subject of
well, I
Master
think,
Leonard
well, I
Ramis?
think,
oh,
well,
Harold?
I could-
Oh, right, yeah.
well,
So-
Harold Ramis, also just digital technology in general, and I can even bring it back around to Bebop in this one. In that, again, it was like a confused mess. In that, you could tell they didn't want to lean too heavily on CG. You know, that's why we don't have as many fucking space battles between ships as you do actually in the fucking show. But then even the CG there, like our expectations of that shit, it's like there are some sequences I'm like, hey, that looks pretty good, and then there are some like I'm like, who did,
Right.
did somebody got a hacked copy of Blender, and here we are, like
Mhm. That's
know?
exactly how it felt.
It's also very jarring that Star Wars still looks better than all of these things, and it came out 40 years ago
Original stuff
with the miniatures. Yeah, with the
Well,
miniatures.
even
still
the
looks better.
George Lucas
That-
90s remasters look
Pra-
better than this.
prac- not just that, practical effects in general, like they're harder to do to like get what you're after, but if you do it right, they almost always look better.
Yeah,
Right. So
they hold up
that's
a lot.
something I want to touch on with this and maybe anime in general, but also just films, which is the more you lean into convenience, the less memorable and less, I guess, like soul or whatever the property is going to have. And I think this falls victim to that. If you take a look, I went to go see Akira in a New Jersey theater last year because all the theaters were shut down in New York and they were doing a revival screening. It was my one opportunity to go to the movies in 2020. And
see Akira, it's in the, I mean, the live action or the anime.
well, there's no live action yet. I'm sure that's next. I'm sure that'll happen.
Oh, they haven't done that yet.
No, it was going to be Taika Waititi directing that for a period, and then he decided to do Jodorowsky's The Inkle.
Yeah, I don't think I'd want Taika on it, and I love
No,
Taika.
he's
But I
not.
don't-
He's not a good. I mean, I don't know if there's
He's
a
not dark.
great pick
No.
for
Give
that.
just give me Alex Proyas. Alex Proyas could probably pull it off.
Oh well, have you seen him late? Have you seen Gods of Egypt or whatever he directed in the past
No.
10
No.
Dark City Alex Proyas would be fantastic, but his
Dark
current
City.
self.
Oh,
Mm.
I'm
Gods
just
of
stuck in
Egypt,
the past.
knowing that Nicolas Cage movie or The End of the World,
Oh, he did that
where he
too.
plays an MIT professor. Yeah.
Okay, well, like, no, I feel sufficiently shamed. Thank you both.
So maybe Dark City, maybe iRobot, Alex Proyas, maybe.
Can I
That's
just? I want to throw this out.
2004.
Well, you're Cinephos. I want to throw this out at you because I've actually been. I haven't scripted it yet, but I've just sort of been drafting notes. But in this age of reboots and remakes and shit, I can't help but think that, especially with my writing style, I want to rewrite and reboot Strange Days.
The title's familiar. I can't immediately place it.
Uh-huh.
Probably.
Yeah, obscure as fuck. That's right. Ray Fiennes, Juliette Lewis, Michael Wincott, Tom Sizemore, for fuck's sake.
For the great Tom Sizemore.
No, everyone forgot about this movie because it's a movie that takes place. I think it was made in '94, and it takes place
95.
95. Look at me. Look at that.
Catherine Bigelow.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. It takes place on New Year's Eve, 1999, when Millennium's gonna happen. But I mean, if you haven't seen that film, honestly, I insist you watch it, and I insist we do a fucking recap on that one, only because to adapt that, so it's like it's got that mid '90s post Rodney King riot race tension in it. It's got corrupt cops in it. It's got weird conspiracies. It's got like a devastating effect on the society that this new, it wasn't social media, but this new technology that they introduced for the story into it. It's also fucking on the nose for like the 2020s, and I'm like, I'm so happy no one remembers that movie. That way, when I rewrite it and I reboot it,
You rip it off, yeah.
I can get it. Yeah, like yeah, it's like the last thing I need is J.J. Abrams being like, I haven't ruined an intellectual property in a while.
Well,
Let me
hey,
find something obscure.
you can kind of get away with that to a degree. I think Simon Barrett, who's Adam Wingard's go-to collaborator, admitted that like 3 of his films were initially just like rewrites, but with a horror tinge to John Hughes movies. I think like Home Alone, 16 Candles, and something. And it's like, oh, all right. I mean, I guess you can do. You can take the blueprint of anything and just rework it technically. So,
Well, I mean that's the entire. I mean that's even how like the entire fuck, what was it called? Christ, no, it was that thing Abrams took over. It started out as a monster movie. Cloverfield, yeah. There's a Cloverfield universe. It's like, wow, these other Cloverfield films totally don't feel like films that someone made, and then J.J. Abrams is like, hey, give me a couple reshoots and a little authority on the plot there, and you got yourself a deal.
100%. The one that they released on, I think it was like New Year's Day, which was Cloverfield Paradox. So 10 Cloverfield Lane. The script to that was originally supposed to be like a thriller, and there was, I believe, there was no real alien aspect to it. It was a lie that the dude was doing to keep them.
I don't even think Goodman's character mentioned anything about aliens or any shit at all. He just said like something has happened. You can't go outside.
Yes.
Great tension builder.
So
yeah,
I read the original script to that not long before checking out 10 Cloverfield Lane, which I think is a pretty good movie. And the original twist was that the supporting male character who she's locked up with is like a bad guy or something, and he does something terrible. And then the John Goodman character isn't a great guy, but he's not like a molester child killer that they allude to, I guess. Not like Stanley Tucci and Lovely Bones style character. But then they rework it into, and you don't even get like the same sci-fi element from that first Cloverfield, but Cloverfield Paradox, I remember, was announced as a totally different project. The cast and crew, it was all set to be one thing that J.J. Abrams was going to, have involvement with as a producer or whatever. And then they throw in the Cloverfield monster from the original movie and try and like, yeah, exactly. They tied it all together. Great.
No, that's exactly, no, that was what he was doing the entire way. He did it with both of those films. Was like they were standalone films, which, I mean, Cloverfield Paradox, if it was a standalone, like, oh my god, like weird shit happening on space station, spaceship thing, whatever, fuck it. I sat through Gravity. I can deal with that.
They even show the I don't even remember the monster showing up on that.
At the very end, yeah. His head pops up from the clouds.
Yeah, because apparently even like, and that's the thing I love too. If you like, the original Cloverfield was like fun for what it was. It's like, hey, look, it's another found footage film, but this one, it's exciting and it's kind of scary, and they tease the monster just enough. It's not that gratuitous. Like, look at this monster I rendered, and then and then it ends. I mean, it was a fun film for what it was, and now we get this thing where like, okay, so in 10 8, was it 10 or 8 Cloverfield
Lane? It was
10
Cloverfield Lane.
10 Cloverfield Lane, yeah. So we get this entire side story, which again was like would have been way better if it was just its own thing. And then like you can clearly see they're like, yeah, once JJ got involved, all of a sudden, instead of being a small and contained and tense film and story, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, aliens in the sky and shit, and I'm a badass now. I'm like out of that Prometheus movie, if you remember. No, all right, well, maybe the other one. No, okay, well, I'm like those characters, forgettable. And yeah, I can fuck up some aliens when it needs it. And then they added, yeah, it was just extra shots. And then in Cloverfield Paradox, we get this thing. It's like, okay, well, this monster, which was kaiju sized, it was Godzilla sized, roaming through New York, smashing shit up and fuck shit up. Oh, now it's big enough to poke its head through the clouds as a spaceship is conveniently falling from Earth. Like
they did a pretty good job at killing that franchise, because I don't think anyone would be excited to see any Cloverfield
I don't
related
think
thing
so.
after that.
J.J. Abrams kills everything he touches. I mean, I was a fan of Lost, and that was when I realized during the writer's strike when J.J. decided, hey, I'm gonna go be kind of like a douchier Seth MacFarlane, except not funny. I'm gonna go off and be this like I'm the whiz kid in Hollywood. Like Lost for all those seasons, even towards the end, right up till that last season, all the build up and shit that they gave us to like enjoy. I'm like, oh, I can't wait for them to tie this together. I'm making my own theories, blah, blah, blah. Then you find out writer's strike comes around. J.J. Abrams decided this is the perfect time for me to fuck off and go make movies. Goes to his writer's room and be like, all right, guys, wrap it up in a season if you can. Like, what's the payoff? Like, what happens with all? Oh, I didn't have any idea. No, have fun. And he
People
fucks
sleep,
off. Yeah, and
right?
then he,
Something like that. I don't even remember what
It was
I
all
never
in an
saw it, but
autistic
it just
boy's head. And it was
yeah,
a
I mean, it
snowblower.
was basically fucking St. Elsewhere. It might as well have been. And then you get him going into Star Trek, and I'm an old Star Trek fan too. But
Yeah.
as a writer myself, I want to go on record saying this. People complain about Deus Ex Machina, right? People complain about obvious plot armor and Chekhov's gun and all that shit, right? What I fucking hate in sci-fi is how timelines are used as like it's the ultimate plot MacGuffin.
That first J.J. Abrams Star Wars movie, which is like we're bringing in the
Star Trek
60s
or Star
series and we're
Wars?
meshing it with it. Right. So when they brought in
Star
Leonard Nimoy, everybody's doing that now. That's how they're making sense of, well, this is how we're going to keep the Marvel films interesting. Here's Tobey Maguire from another universe, and here's Michael Keaton's Batman.
The multiverse kind of works in the MCU because, for one thing, like there's a lower expectation of realism. Also, in the comics, and I'm a comic nerd, like the multiverse is a thing, and it actually does add interesting plot elements. But whereas like Marvel on the comics, and as I'm seeing them kind of do it now in the films, is taking that on like I hate to say more seriously. J.J. Abrams is the kind of guy who like he like there's no corner he cannot write himself into or out of casually and lazily. And honestly, him establishing a whole new timeline so that Star Trek, which used to be this really like you know, the original series was goofy, the Next Generation was thoughtful, and then it got more and more thoughtful as it got along. To take a series like that and turn it into, I'm gonna have this guy jump dirt bikes and we're gonna have sword fights, and oh my god,
They brought the Beastie Boys out for the soundtrack.
yeah, and then to see how that fed into this Star Trek Picard garbage, where that's another one.
The
Like,
Discovery.
yeah, I haven't watched Discovery, and I don't think I will. I watched Picard hoping I'd at least get something out of it, and I'm like, oh, jumpy, flippy sword fights. That's what I think of when I think of Star Trek. Yeah.
That's
I think
okay.
of the Romulans, and I think of samurai cowboys.
Very
Yeah.
soon.
Star Wars it up.
You're
Yeah.
gonna well, that's what you're gonna get next. You will get the merge of Star Wars and Star Trek very soon. Look, Disney
I'm
put in a
not
bid.
Looking forward to that at all.
They put in a bid to get DC, so they were probably already thinking we could have
I
Batman
can't
and
wait until
Spider-Man
the
together.
X-Men. I can't wait until the X-Men show up on the bridge of the Millennium Falcon.
Look,
so
they
they
don't
can
know.
all go
They don't know
they
what to
can
do
all
with
go
Star
rescue-
Wars.
they can all go rescue Captain Picard from Hogwarts, where he's been held captive by Dementors. Fuck!
Hey, Wolverine in space, but he's too heavy because he's skeleton, he's metal.
Oh,
so he
right,
needs
yeah.
special
Yeah.
boots. Oh,
You bringing
Jesus.
physics into my movie, sir?
Oh, God,
They
no.
don't know how to continue with Star Wars now. They probably won't do the obvious. We're gonna retcon it. We're gonna go back just very slightly. They probably will do something ridiculous, and you will live to see Star Wars and Star Trek get a merge universe movie.
I can tell that the Obi-Wan series is going to be terrible because they're filming it in Massachusetts.
Are they?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
What?
Wow. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
get some
But no, but
extra
just
work
like,
on
but
that.
just like City
Wait, they
on a
don't
Hill.
film it in space? What?
No, just like City on a Hill though. I'm pretty positive that that it's all like out of town actors. When City on a Hill started getting produced, I'm like, holy shit, a New England production. Maybe I can get work. Oh, everyone's from New York or Vancouver, and they're filming it in New York and Vancouver. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna show up to get some establishing shots at Boston, and then we're gonna fuck clean off out of here because who the fuck wants to deal with these fucking cunts? Yeah, make it happen Monday, my ass. Like,
That show is, I mean, it's not outright terrible, but it's bad. I started watching it just because I've been in more of like a TV mood lately. And my threshold for like being able to watch certain scripted shows, because now I'm
Wait, what's it
checking out
called? Make it
Dexter, City
happen.
on a Hill.
Oh,
No, What's
yeah,
Happening is actually
Kevin
the
Bacon.
show, and Rerun is the star. He's a Boston native. Yeah, you should check that out. We should do a show on that, on the entire series of What's Happening.
I don't know why. Well, no, I do know why. Because we've all seen movies. Like, I mean, I think The Departed is the best example of like people who've never really spent any time in Boston or Massachusetts in general, and they're like, "All right, I got the fucking accent there, buddy," and it's like, "Oh God, what are you doing?" I had to, because I've been doing this voice work for Chilling Tales, and I got this big script, which is nice because that means more money. But I'm 10 minutes into this recording, like the voice and pitch and tenor's perfect. I haven't fucked up once. So it's a clean recording. 10 minutes in, I'm like thinking to myself, like, this shit's gonna be like $500. And then I get to this part where it's like the character says, I come from a town in Lancashire, England. I'm like, fuck!
Oh,
God damn it! And I went back, and then for the last 3 days, I've been trying to learn a Lancashire accent, and it gets. And then what happens though is I keep getting back into fucking Yorkshire, and it gets worse and worse every time. Every time I go back, trying to get it going down to Lancashire, and it turns into fucking Yorkshire. It turns into fucking Scouse, and I'm like, why is it I'm putting this amount of effort into learning an accent correctly for a YouTube video belonging to somebody else? And
Yeah.
yet these A-listers can't be bothered to sign up and be like, okay, so park the car. That's just like that. That's just a joke. Oh, fight me, faggot. That's what they say. Okay.
We were doing well when we did the topic time video, which you haven't mentioned at all. I'm sure that's going to come up.
oh yeah, maybe we'll
A
yeah,
future
right,
episode
sure.
we're doing. There was one point where you asked me to do an impression or something, and I was like, no, like this is not gonna fucking happen.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna try to do a Boston accent when the only accent I have is this.
Well, they,
Like I
what
can't
I,
really fake anything else.
what I said was, oh well, Devlin here. Because we were in character, obviously. I said, I'm a private investigator from Queens, New York, and then he posted on his Facebook status like minutes after, like a PI from Brooklyn just reached out to me, and we're gonna do this anyway. So I was playing Rathke from the movie, and Hans was playing Devlin, and I was like, well, I mean, I think Devlin's got a bit of a Boston accent himself. Hey, and don't you do impressions? You can do like a Tiger impression,
No.
can't you? Or Jack Nicholson? And I was really
done
hoping you were
this.
going to go for it, but
No,
no.
I was like, I've done this on stream when I'm hammered.
Yeah,
I
when you're
don't know what
down
it's
a
like
bottle
to
of
do it
vodka and 12
sober.
beers.
I gotta say, between
Yeah.
the fact that like I've had to read dialogue for Evans, in addition to the shoot that we did, like 2 or 3 other times, and it's one of these things like, okay, wait a second, where is this guy from? Fuck, I don't remember. All right, generic northeastern accent thought to work for this. Fuck it. Who's gonna notice? It's the same thing. I even wrote I wrote the writer of the story I'm trying to read in this Lancashire accent, and I'm like, I apologize ahead of time for butchering it. I might sound a little Scottish, and I'm definitely gonna sound a little bit Yorkshire. He's like, wait, someone's actually gonna produce that story I wrote? Like, oh, okay, we're approaching this at different planes. I see. This is fine. But no, I mean, it's like, that's the thing. It's like, why the fuck? I mean, Jay, fucking Massachusetts is swimming in aspiring actors who just get dragged down by like the shit infrastructure of the film network there. And, like, there's one actual agent, and half of his clientele are fucking background actors.
Of course.
And then it's like, Yeah, and it's like, hey, sign up for Agency Pro, $200 a year, and you can get a social media account with my casting company. Fuck. And then we're surprised Kevin Bacon shows up with a bunch of fucking Canadians to shoot establishing shots before they fuck back off to New York to film a thing about Boston. Fuck.
I can tell you're very upset you didn't get the City on the Hill gig. Jeez. But look, it's not a very good show. I'm like 7 episodes in. There's one legit actor from Boston who's probably lived in L.A. most of his life, and that's Jonathan Tucker, and he's got it almost down pat. But everybody else,
I like Tucker's shit. Actually, I loved him in. Like Neil Gaiman is my favorite author, and his role as basically Loki in American Gods. Like I'm like, this is not how I pictured him in the books, but please continue. And
Loki's just got a scally cap, and he drinks Rolling Rock, and he hangs out. At the...
Oh, he's in prison. No, he's in prison most of the time.
Yeah. Listen to Dropkick Murphys in prison. I think that the reason why that happens, I think, is because you have to be from there to know the difference. Because I just hear, like, I watch Boondock Saints, and I'm like, oh, this is Boston. Yeah, everyone talks like they're from Boston.
Yeah, well, I mean, the worst accents in that was honestly like the Irish accents. That are too.
He was Irish.
I don't know. And like a river, it'll flow until you find me Lucky Charms. Like who's your fucking dialect coach there, Powder? All right, just pump the brakes, buddy. But I mean, like, did either of you catch the movie last year? It was fucking critically acclaimed, which I don't fucking understand, but I care a lot.
I didn't watch it. Jake, who worked on the film with us and is part of our crew, did something with production for that movie.
Fucking atrocious film.
Is it set in Mass?
Oh, it's set in Boston, and it's funny because it's one of the few times you see a movie set in Mass or Boston where they don't really explicitly say so. But like, when you've worked on when you've worked on a few movies and you've seen what sets are like, and you see half the time like, wow, this deluxe corporate office for the bad guy is actually just some cheap shit rental location off 93. Then when you see like they went for the budget option of that, and you realize you're like, wow, I've only seen fucking Tyrion in 2 or 3 locations, and when I combine that with the fact that he really looked like he just wanted to go home, okay, I get it. And it's like I saw one actor I know, and I did a film with him, Ascendance, back a ways. And he's a talented actor. He's done a lot of shit. He was in Daredevil, and he came back to Boston to play this role. Jose Gonzalez, fucking Guns Gonzalez, a fucking powerhouse, like intimidating, muscular guy, but he's also got acting chops. But yeah, he was basically just doing featured background work. And I'm like, okay, I've been getting whatever work I can, and I know the people in this scene here pretty well. I have seen none of them in this film. And all of these locations, like, oh, look, we're in another parking structure. Wow, that must have really run the budget up, huh?
I'm looking at the reviews for that movie on Rotten Tomatoes, and I think that's maybe what's kept me from checking, because I remember this title when it came out, but reviews like Rosamund Pike is almost too effective, her delicious villainy too irresistible to completely loathe. From her sharp canary yellow suit to her fearless resolve, Marla may be problematic, but she is fabulous.
Well, doesn't that movie end with Macon Blair's like a Trump supporter, and he's like, I'm with her, bitch, or something, and he fires the gun into her chest and kills her.
In this film, it's like, so this whole one is like, so Rosamund Pike's character, the main character, she runs this like seniors administrative thing where like she is the one who declares if they're capable of taking care of themselves, and then she racks up huge bills for them with like nursing homes and shit and makes a profit off of that, right? And then she crosses a crime boss played by Tyrion Lannister. And like none of it, it's one of these things, it's like, I think it almost wanted to be kind of like Layer Cake. And it's like, hey, look, this is a vicious criminal who, is profiting off of the suffering of others, but they're a likable character involved in some crazy hijinks. And what we ended up getting is like, this is an unlikable bitch who does horrible things to like helpless people. And you want, but oh, you want me the sympathetic character? Okay, yes, because it's strong female protagonist. I'm like, this is a horrible piece of shit. Everyone in this movie is a horrible piece of shit. Any characters that have any depth or worth to them at all, they're either not in the movie or they get killed off. And then we end with like, oh yeah, Tyrion Lannister, the crime boss of Boston, like the dwarf crime boss who does all of his business out of parking structures and kills people when he willy-nilly. And spoiler alert, he decides at the end, after she almost has him killed, that they need to go into business together. And he's completely cool with the fact that he basically drove his own mother into poverty and death. Fucking, and it's just like, I'm like, this is the best Boston cinema has to offer. And then you look at these reviews, like stunning performances. I mean, I was so in the movie.
So it's not necessarily Better Call Saul. It's just a boss bitch being a boss bitch.
I would have preferred Troy Duffy's I Care a Lot. I think Troy Duffy's going to make a comeback. He's got Boondock Saints 3 coming.
Hang on. Jay, hang on. Did Troy Duffy do that?
No, I wish.
Oh,
I would have watched it if he did.
Christ. Yeah, no, I'd love to see the YouTube documentary on what a pain in the ass he was on that movie, too.
Overnight is on Tubi for free right now. Much better watch, I'm sure, than I Care a Lot. Is seeing him make an enemy of Harvey Weinstein like his first year in Hollywood. And
yeah,
then,
he's probably... I can just imagine him doing that victory lap. He's like, yeah, fuck you, Willem Dafoe, with your bullshit only working with second unit crew in Florida because you don't want to be around me. Fuck you.
I watched I watched a YouTube interview of him recently on the channel Indie Film Hustle. And it seems like nothing has changed in 25 years. He's just the same guy, but a little bit older and fatter. And he's like, see, I knew it. I knew he was a bad guy. I'm the hero.
His band is gonna be bigger than fucking Godsmack, bro. His band. Did you hear about his band?
His band, also called the Boondock Saints, right?
Gonna be fucking. Listen, any day now, any fucking day, like Sony or fucking Olympic Records. I don't know what the record companies are. They're gonna pick him up one of these days, and then they're gonna make Boondock Saints 3, 4, and 5, all featuring a fatter and less happy Sean Patrick Flannery.
Well, he's the one pushing the project, right? Because he's not getting work. What is he doing?
What Troy Duff is doing now? 2020, his last project. He wrote a movie called Guest House, starring Pauly Shore, Bobby Lee, Billy Zane, and Steve-O.
Damn, he got Billy Zane. Billy Zane, who's like an $800 Cameo.com selection. Wow. Bobby Lee, Pauly Shore, Steve-O. This is
I love you can already tell with that cast, like you already know too, Pauly Shore and Bobby Lee were both probably literally like, I have nothing else to do, so why the fuck not? And this sounds like a good way to, a reason to get out of bed in the morning. Billy Zane's like, I can be a star again. They'll make a sequel to The Phantom, I'm sure of it after this.
Guess the character that Pauly Shore is playing.
Rob Schneider.
I'm gonna say Pauly Shore.
He's a party guy living in a house.
Oh my God.
Parties.
I've seen the trailer to this. No, I've seen the trailer to this. Yeah. It's one of those dumb situational like
Let's watch this trailer. Hold on, Hans. Pull this trailer up.
Okay,
Let's take a look.
All right.
Yeah.
Hold on. All right.
So he's directed things that don't have the Boondock Saints name, because I know he did 2, and that had Judd Nelson as the bad guy.
Yeah, and the funny thing with that too is they had to recast, well, not recast, but so Willem Dafoe's super FBI investigator character turned into a woman lady,
right?
And the thing is the big reason for that is Willem Dafoe. Don't take this as gospel. I might be wrong, but what I'd heard is that Willem Dafoe really just did not. He was under contract that he'd agreed to do a sequel if they did one, but he wouldn't work with Troy Duffy directly, which is why like he just has this cameo in the end. And if you watch, you see the only person that seems excited to be in that movie is, I forget his name, the little guy, like the little Mexican dude. He's the only one who Paul Paul Patrick Flannery, whatever the fuck's name is, Powder
Sean
there.
Patrick Flannery, yeah.
Sean Patrick Flannery. If you look at him in this film, he looks bloated and hungover, and he doesn't want to be there. Norman Reedus just doesn't look like he really wants to be there. Ron Jeremy's happy that he got unkilled from the first movie so he could come back. And then there's like Mexican dude who's like, yeah, I haven't had this experience yet working with him, so I'm sure it'll be great. Oh, fuck. All right, I guess I'll do my best.
Right. So they had to get a fill-in for what was the Rocco character for that first movie. And I think that's who you're talking about because it was the Mexican guy. I forgot that Willem Dafoe even did a cameo in that film. I was saying my prediction was he was going to come back for this third one, but if he doesn't like Troy Duffy, I'm obviously probably not.
If that documentary was even remotely accurate that I saw, right, then nobody wants to work with Troy Duffy because he's like, I've made it. I'm famous and rich now.
Oh, I don't know. I kind of disagree with you because he just did. What is it? I forgot the name of the movie already.
Can we watch it? Let's see the trailer. What happened to it?
Okay, hold on.
We got a problem. I know he was trying to crowdfund an animated prequel or something, or maybe it was originally supposed to be a live-action prequel that turned into an animated one.
After we finished up with this, I do need to go.
Yeah, we've got 2 episodes out of this. I'm fairly certain.
All right.
Let's take a look. 2020. I'm hyped.
Fire in the hole! Roman, dude, you have a woman now. Ah, nice.
We're getting married.
Being sober was the worst thing Steve ever did.
I think this is the place.
This is it.
Hey, you two.
Shut up and take our money.
Oh, it's the meme.
Shut
You know
up
that
and take our
meme?
money. What's the catch?
Oh, they said it again. Oh.
Are you guys here for the party? This is Tommy Lee's sex swing.
Hell no. I just don't feel comfortable allowing some weirdo to live in our guest house.
Jesus, that's not a kid.
Promise me he'll be out soon.
I will march out there and I'll say, you gotta get out of here in 3 months.
I don't know about you. Why one, how about two? Jump in.
I wonder what happens in this movie.
Drug is called Flocka. Some are calling it the insanity drug.
Can't do that in my house.
Fuck me, bro. Did you have the talk with Randy today?
Yeah. I gotta get high.
Come on.
I am not fucking doing that.
Just suck it.
Dude, of all the pipes you got in this place, why do I gotta smoke out of this one?
It's how I sort out my pretenders. This makes you my real friend.
Whoa.
Going nuts, that's cashews.
Cashews, everything around me.
You're high.
That's what weed is like.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, I was about to say, have they ever smoked weed? Like, what the fuck? This is not what you do.
It is in the trailer though.
Welcome to the neighborhood.
Everything. How long is it?
They just wanted to give us all of the important beats of the movie.
I totally forgot to tell you they're bug bombing the house today.
Low value, yes.
Here we motherfucking go.
Flock of possum.
This is what happens when Adam Sandler says a script is too shit for him.
Where's Billy Zane?
It's just a.
Oh, there he is.
It's just a possum. They're not that terrifying. What the
Hold on, was that Chris Kattan?
Oh, probably. I mean, I'm sure he's.
Oh
great.
my
Hold
god,
on.
yeah, it is.
They didn't even give Chris Kattan a title for the movie? Oh, God. He couldn't even get a name card in a Pauly Shore starring film.
Like, can we get Chris Kattan? I don't know. I need to check with his fucking manager at Panera.
If that shit was on pay-per-view, we'd be
Oh,
fucking
man.
millionaires right
That
now.
is depressing.
What the fuck? Not only that, like, yeah, so, like, you even heard that last
Sam
joke.
Macaroni is a real name.
Hold on. So, Troy didn't direct this. He wrote it.
No, he wrote. Yeah, he was
And
one
then
of the
somebody
three
named
writers.
Sam Macaroni directed it, which sounds a lot like a pseudonym to me because somebody was
No,
embarrassed.
it
of
is.
what
It
they
is a real
directed.
guy.
Are we sure?
I was thinking the same thing because there's this Sean Bishop guy that also wrote it, who's only done like
Are we sure?
I guess music videos for
Are we sure it's not
Lady
like a
Gaga
Shutterstock model that comes up for Sam Macaroni?
No, it really legit looks like. I mean, that looks like an Adam Sandler movie that Adam Sandler didn't want to be a part of.
That's Sam Macaroni right there.
Yep. Okay.
So
sure.
I go hungry, and this fucker gets enough money to afford Pauly Shore. There's no justice.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking Pauly Shore money. You know who his mom was? That's right, Mitzi Shore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Comedy Store. Well,
look at that.
Yeah.
It's callback, kind of.
Anyway, so it all just comes down to Netflix doesn't know how to make movies. People in LA don't know how to make movies. Sam Macaroni, that's the auteur. Season 2, Cowboy Bebop. Give it to Sam Macaroni. Let's see how that goes. Billy Zane,
Sam Macaroni,
Spike Spiegel.
Troy Duffy's.
Chris
Cowboy
Kattan,
Bebop.
Spike Spiegel.
Hell
Billy
yeah.
Zane is jet black. And you get that girl with the foul mouth as Faye Valentine. It all comes together perfectly.
Yeah, there we go. And I'm pretty sure we could digitally de-age Dakota Fanning to get a decent Radical Edward. You know, her just like 25-year-old ass bouncing around. Like,
Sure.
why am I here? Yeah.
Why not?
We'll de-age her like Patrick Stewart in Wolverine. It'll be great.
Terrific. I love this. All right, I think we got to pull the trigger on this.
I think we've saved Hollywood and Netflix here. I mean,
We've at least saved Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we need to give it to J.J. Abrams and just see what happens.
Let's just bring in Steve Bloom via, alternate timeline like Leonard Nimoy, right? You throw a little makeup on him. He's old Spike Spiegel. And that's how we're going to introduce the multiverse.
And he can meet up with young Spike Spiegel because of time travel, because MacGuffin. Yeah, all right. Jesus. Then Skylaser and credits. Yes.
Terrific. All right.
God damn. I hope you guys are looking forward, everyone, all 12 of you who listen to this podcast. I hope you look forward to the
All right.
Skylaser.
How dare you,
20?
Nick?
State lottery. There's a great Skylaser at the end of our movie.
There is plenty of lens flare. Mass
No.
State Lottery.
No,
Mass State Lottery is the Cloverfield Monster is the killer.
No, you ruined the
reveal at
movie.
the
What are you
end.
thinking?
I just got a text message actually, because I got that production credit now, right, Jay?
Sure.
J.J. Abrams has decided to roll Mass State Lottery into the Cloverfield universe. So there's
Nice.
it's going to be a gritty
Great.
crime drama, and then there's going to
Make
be a
that
dragon
money.
at the end of it.
Well, all those men that go missing, that fall into the water, it actually turns out it's actually a monster that's pulling them into the water, and the monster is, of course, Cloverfield. That's what nobody's telling you this. It's going to be figured out.
It's a good thing nobody sits through 2.5 hour podcasts like this, though, because otherwise they'd have totally had the movie spoiled for them, and
Yeah.
nobody would.
Of course. So on that note, since it is the ideal time to promote your stuff, 2 hours, 27 minutes in, Nick, where can people find you on the internet?
Oh, well, I'm going to be starting a new channel actually soon because I've been algorithmed to death, where I'm just going to be putting fiction up.
Nice.
But yeah, you can catch you Wizard of Cause. That's like, there's only 2 people who ever took that moniker, me and a guy who doesn't believe the moon landing happened. So I'll let you discern which of us is which in your searches for me. Yeah, I do. If you go over to Chilling Tales for Dark Nights, you can find me reading creepypasta shit. I have a good fun time doing that. You can find me in Jace Movie, both with fantastic hair and beard, and then later without any of it and no eyebrows. I did that for the movie. I'm not really sick, so don't worry. I'm mostly healthy. Otherwise, I don't know. Yeah, you can find me around the internet. I just produce shit wherever I can. Hopefully, Jay and I still got to talk about. We still got to have a sit down about Pray for Rain.
Yeah, we'll talk about that very soon for certain.
Off the air, no more spoiling shit. By the
No,
way,
this is the most I think we've revealed about Mass State that is not publicly out there via
space
channels.
lasers. Fucking like, there's a fucking Iron Man cameo. It's insane what we did with this movie, and we're gonna get so.
It's
sued
the
by
Iron Patriot.
lottery people.
It's the black girl who's currently the new Iron Man. She's gonna come in.
Ironheart.
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 Excuse
You
me, Iron
fucking-
Patriot. That's Willem Dafoe. That's the Green
Exactly.
Goblin. Norman. See?
No, Iron
Yeah.
Patriot. That was No, that was
That was Norman Osborn.
That was the first black guy they had playing Rhodey. I can't remember his name now, even though I should.
Terrence Howard, small penis.
Terrence, I would have known that. It's not a racial thing at all. It's just I'm bad with names. But yeah, no, and that was Iron Patriot when he stole the armor, and then he became War Machine when Don Cheadle got nominated for an award. So that's what I've been up to, everyone. You can find me in Avengers Endgame.
I actually, hey, listen, I do have a Marvel wiki because I did background work on Spider-Man, the new one coming out, and I put my name up on my IMDb, so it looked good. And then some nerd made me a Marvel wiki page where I play bodega customer, so I'm part of the MCU now.
My old buddy Chris, who like basically was like my first acting coach and mentor for a while, and he was my roommate down south. I've told you about him before, but he was in Spider-Man: Homecoming, which completely knocked me out of the movie. I hate seeing friends of mine in shit. In fact, I just recently learned my friend was actually the Santa in Happy. And I'm like, anytime I'm like watching this thing and I'm like, I'm enjoying this movie, Phil. I'm enjoying this story. What the fuck are you doing there, Chris Berry? I know you. You don't live in New York. This is not correct at all. You've never been attacked by Spider-Man, but here you have. Yeah, I
don't want to hear your Massey Lottery review after the movie. It's just like, oh, they're just people I know. What the hell?
I tried to get into this movie, but I was there when they were making it, and it made it really hard for me to buy any of it.
All right, well, that has been movies for this week. Happy Hanukkah to our Jewish listeners and to half of Nick. And that's a wrap. All right. H-word name on Twitter. Flores Wonder Bread everywhere else. Patreon.com/Flores. Oh, fuck. We have a sponsor now. We'll save it for the next show. Check Surfshark VPN. We'll give the code eventually. Great. All right. That has been movies. Thank you for listening.